Somewhere beyond the recesses of time and space, two podcasters are set adrift in a machine, picking up transmissions of movies that are forgotten but not gone.
Welcome to Movie Memory Machine, the only podcast about forgotten movies that doesn't knock it till we try it. That's a joke you'll get in a little bit. I am your host, Landen Solano, joined always by my co-host, Truman Caps. Truman, it's good to see you.
Landon,
it's good to watch you.
Oh yeah, well, thank you. I hope you're using Spartacus. Yeah, it's really good to be seen. Shit. Fuck. I'm sorry. Timeout. This is really embarrassing. I actually didn't have the recorder on. Can we just take the? Oh. I'm sorry. Can we just take one more time? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm glad you recognize it now.
I know. We got it early. Yes. Just take it from the.
Yeah.
Just take it from the intro.
Do you need a silence?
Oh yeah. Let's just get a little silence.
Okay. Are we still synced?
Oh, actually, yeah. Let's do a clap and then yeah, one more time.
Do you want me to start my recorder over? Do you want to just clean files?
No. This will be good. No, I can
okay.
loop this up. I can loop this up. Let's just do a clap one more.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, clap.
Welcome to Movie Memory Machine, the only podcast about forgotten movies that doesn't knock it till we try it. That is a joke you'll get in a little bit. I am your host, Landen Solano, joined always by my co-host, Truman Caps. Truman, it's good to be watching you.
Oh, thank you, Landon. Operation complete. I successfully convinced Landon that I hadn't had my recorder on and got him to repeat the opening. Landon.
Wait a minute, you son of a bitch.
You gotta trust nobody! You can't even trust your eyes!
This is a long con. If you are getting me back for a Halloween episode we did on a previous podcast years ago.
Landon, this is just how the game is played. This is how espionage works. It's about
Holy
relationships.
Shit.
You can't trust anybody.
You son of a bitch.
You don't know shit.
I don't know. Where is this episode going to go? This episode might rip us asunder. I don't know.
I have
trust
cloaks.
issues now.
There's going to be daggers. I told you recently that I had a dream in which we were trying to kill each other in spy versus spy type situations.
You did. And I think that was after our Don Juan DeMarco episode in which we took vehemently different opposing sides on Marlon Brando, which I regret taking, by the way.
So what you're saying is I was right all along. This is
this is
what our spies were fighting over.
I don't feel like I articulated my point the way that I wanted to in that episode. Doesn't matter. We're not talking about Don Juan DeMarco or Marlon Brando today.
No, we're not.
We're talking about someone who has worked with Marlon Brando.
We are talking about someone who's worked with Marlon Brando and somebody who has, I would say, more joie de vivre for being in this movie than Marlon Brando did in his movie.
A man that we have covered once before on this show. Oh my, I can't wait to get into some trivia about that in just a second.
I would argue, and I'll get into this later, I actually don't think we've covered this man before on our show. A different man is in this movie than was in the other movie.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get us started with this conversation. Truman, I have an important question to ask you, as I do in every episode, but this one is particularly important. Are you ready?
I am ready. Is there going to be a little thing over my eye to tell if we're online or not? Okay, that's
a different segment.
Stay tuned.
Would you rather ride on a train, dance in the rain, or feel no pain?
Ride on a train, absolutely. Why are you even asking me? Of course. I go out of my way to ride on trains even when I don't need to.
Would you want to ride on a train while you felt pain? What if that was the opposite? Would you rather ride on a train and feel pain, or never ride a train again and feel no pain?
Never ride a train again and feel no pain. I mean, that's tough. You're contrasting my love of public transit with my essential wussiness.
That's why it's a difficult question. This is why it's a psychological exam.
You know what? Because I have the thing over my eye, even if you're not looking at the readout. You'll know that I'm lying if I say that I'm such a tough guy that I'm willing to experience pain to ride trains. But no, I don't want to feel pain, so I won't ride a train.
You arrived at that answer a lot faster than Colin Farrell did.
Well, you know what? I think that I am a little bit brighter than Colin Farrell's character in this movie, which is damning myself with faint praise.
What big surveillance software have you created?
You know, I'm talking on a webcam with you right now. I don't have.
It's weird that we don't come out of our quarters. We can just meet in the common area, but no, we have to do this. We choose to do this over Zoom.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's honestly wise, Landon. As I've already proven, you gotta trust nobody, and that includes not showing them your real face.
How do I know? Wait a minute, hold on. How do I know that I can trust that this is the image of you and you're not using some Operation Fortune Ruse de Guerre AI simulated, image thing on me?
Listen, how do you know that I'm not the male version of a computer lady? I mean, that could be the ultimate.
It happens to us all.
It happens to the best of us.
Oh my God. Well, today the machine has made us watch The Recruit from 2003. Truman, would you mind decoding this encrypted synopsis for us?
I would gladly do that. MIT graduate James Clayton, played by Colin Farrell, is a computer whiz who coded a program called Spartacus, which can hack into any computer on the internet to broadcast a video feed. This gets him a job offer from Dell, but before Clayton can accept, he's approached by Walter Burke, played by Al Pacino, a recruiter for the CIA. Clayton has long suspected that his father, who died many years ago under mysterious circumstances, was a CIA agent, and Burke suggests that he has the answers that Clayton craves. So Clayton joins the CIA and begins spy training at a CIA facility called The Farm, where he and his fellow trainees learn the principles of espionage, from wiretaps and lie detectors to torture resistance and hand-to-hand combat. Along the way, Clayton develops a crush on his mysterious, coffee-loving classmate Layla Moore, played by Bridget Moynahan. After graduation, Burke informs Clayton that Layla is a double agent tasked with stealing a top-secret cyber weapon from the CIA. Clayton's first assignment is to get close to Layla by any means necessary so he can stop her before she completes her mission. The Recruit.
Mission complete. Truman has given the synopsis.
Your masterful pulling of all of the strings convinced me to do that.
No.
I was not going to do this.
This wasn't the manipulation thing. I'm the guy with the clipboard just reporting to the higher up saying, yeah, he's completed the task.
Okay, yeah. So you're less of a CIA spy master and more of like a secret shopper at a supermarket, just making sure I'm doing the basics of my job.
Not even that. I'm the person who takes the form from the secret shopper and says, good, they completed the task that we gave them.
You know, listen, if I've learned anything from this movie, it's that doing a data entry job, like being the data entry side of espionage, the one who is just like sitting in a cubicle looking at a computer, seems kind of neat. It seems like an okay job.
Is this film training the people behind the computer that aid Orson Fortune on his adventures?
Yes. Aubrey Plaza's character watched this as a little girl and was like, yeah. I'm going to get good at computers, so I can do this.
This film was written by Roger Towne, not Robert, Kurt Wimmer, and Mitch Glazer, and directed by Roger Donaldson. Remember that name, please.
Oh, I will.
It's going to come up
he has
a lot
done some
on this
stuff.
show.
Yes.
Not just this episode, but in the future. This film stars Colin Farrell, Al Pacino, Bridget Moynahan, and Gabriel Macht.
Yep, it sure does. I cannot, unless, wait, is this I shouldn't trust you on that. I should actually check because you might be putting one over on me. Yep, nope, Gabriel Macht. That's true.
Here's the thing, Truman. There's a poker scene in this movie.
Yes.
I feel like I'm a pretty decent poker player.
Yeah.
Because my default face always looks like I'm hiding a secret. Therefore, if I always just play the truth of my hand, people will fake themselves out.
Yeah, I mean, Landon definitely has rapscallion energy. Like, he is sort of unknowable. I mean, yeah, if you guys could see, subscribe at the maximum tier of our Patreon to get the video of what Landon just did. The kind of shoulder shimmies.
And the grin, and the impish grin.
And the impish grin. So look, I think that, yes, this is why I've never played poker with you. This is also why I don't really play poker with anyone, both because I am just dog shit at remembering what hands are good and which ones are bad.
But then, a big part of it, yes.
Also, I have a very hard time I don't know. I think I can't really sell a lie properly, despite what the beginning of our podcast may have suggested.
Let's go through some specs of this film, so we can give some context of when it came out. It was released January 31st, 2003, by Buena Vista Pictures.
Oh,
I don't know why I did that accent.
Is that what they call it in Italy?
This is Buena Vista is branch of Disney. It's
yes.
who puts out their more adult films.
Does that make Bridget Moynahan's character in this technically a Disney princess?
No, because it's not a Disney film. It's a
Well,
Buena
so,
Vista film.
owned by Disney. I don't know.
I mean, does that make Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction a Disney princess?
One of my friends in high school would argue, yes, in fact, it does. That's the only reason I ask.
I feel like your friend in high school would be insufferable to have a conversation with.
This is a friend of mine who also maintains that Beck is a better musician than Beyonce. So, I mean, I don't know.
Okay, that's a conversation I'm not going to touch.
I know. I'm just saying. This is a man who is known for dangerous thinking.
Okay, all right. Do you want to guess? Speaking of thinking, how many theaters this was released into? And bear in mind, I'll give you this look at the facts so far. This is a January 31st release.
Kind of
that
a weird
is
time.
Like a post Academy Award run, award season dump. Usually January and August, as we talked about before, are the months they're just like, I don't know what to do with this film. It's not very good. We don't have any faith in it, maybe. Put it in January, and hopefully it'll surprise us.
I'm gonna jump in with my good friend 1500 Theaters.
Okay, interesting guess.
Interesting guess. Is it a correct guess?
It is on the nose to the number.
Wait, no, really? No, wait,
no, it's not.
Trust no one. Trust no one. Your eyes will deceive you. There you go. Okay, and your ears. All right, what is it? What is it actually?
2,376.
Okay, that's. I mean,
that's a wide release.
That's I mean, and again, I guess I always undershoot it. I don't know. This movie just feels like it wouldn't even. I don't know. This feels like a made-for-TV movie in a bunch of ways.
Yes, I have a comment on that later as well.
It escaped from our TVs and wriggled its way into like 2,300 theaters.
Do you want to guess though, or maybe you know, what this debuted at in the box office?
I actually don't know what it debuted at in the box office. I was hoping that the Wikipedia page I'm looking at would tell me. What did it do? Okay, now was this... Okay, 4. Was it 4? Was it our good buddy number 4?
I think we've broken the spell of 4.
Really?
This is, yet again, 2 weeks in a row, a number 1 box office hit.
No.
Yes.
No, this was the number 1 movie at the box office.
It was the number 1 movie at the box office. I can tell you what the other ones are if you would like to hear.
Yeah, no, I'd love to hear what people were not seeing so they could see this movie.
Get ready for just a slap in the face of 2003.
Okay, I feel like my face already has a bruised imprint of 2003 in it from watching this film, so I don't know what else you can do to my face.
Oh, get ready. Here we go.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give you the top 5 for brevity's sake this week.
Okay, yeah.
Number 1, in its first week, The Recruit, the film we're covering today.
Fascinating.
Number 2, fittingly, it's a sequel.
Okay.
It's a number 2 in its title. It is Final Destination 2.
All right, okay.
Also in its first week.
Okay, coming into focus a little bit more what was performing that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
Well, hold on. Just wait. You're going to come into so much focus, your eyes are going to bleed. Because number 3, in its first week, Biker Boys with a Z.
What? No. Trust no one. Your eyes will deceive you.
I think Dane Cook is in that movie.
You're ripping up a newspaper, but you're about to flip the newspaper over, and it's still one newspaper. Yep. What actually was number 3?
Biker Boys with the Z. I
just don't think Biker Boys is real.
And it's it has Dane Cook in it. So, like, you've got some 2003 buried in your 2003.
Oof. I mean, that's some things should stay buried. When this movie came out, Dane Cook's current wife probably wasn't even born.
Oh, ouch. And accurate.
Yep.
Number 4 in its third week.
Wow,
This is released in 2003, and it feels very 2003. It is Kangaroo Jack.
Ooh. Wow, I'm getting a headache from how much this week is coming into focus. A very cursed week. I want to quickly double back to the fact that Biker Boys is apparently based on a book also called Biker Boys. Was that on Oprah's book list at some point?
I hope so. I hope so.
Hope Springs not based on a book. Biker Boys based on a book.
Is it based on the same book as The Bike Riders?
This I don't know. You know, maybe it goes
just like a photojournalism book.
Biker Boys is not a blue link that I can't click to find out more information.
Okay, all right. There's not deep links to Biker Boys on Wikipedia.
Yes, that's the depth of my research.
Okay, coming into number 5, let's get rid of the top 10 box office here. Unsurprisingly, in its fourth week, Chicago.
Oh! Yeah, Chicago. Okay. I remember seeing that in theaters with my parents.
Academy Award-winning Best Picture, Chicago.
That is is a box office weekend like this one an artifact of a bygone era? Like now that
Yes.
they used to just make a lot of small movies that were sort of niche and blast them out there, and now it's just, if you go in January, it's just going to be a bunch of second-run Marvel movies, basically.
Essentially, yeah. What you've got here in your top 5 is only a single sequel.
Yeah.
None of them are based on, like, an IP that pre-existed outside of, obviously, the sequel, but that only existed 3 years earlier, so...
I mean, technically, kangaroos are an existing IP. But
Kangaroo Jack... We talked about this on our Lightning Jack episode.
Yes, Kangaroo Jack is he's part of the Jack franchise, which has been going for quite some time.
All right, let's finish up with some specs here.
Yeah.
The Recruit had, how long was it in theaters? 15 weeks, but it drops out of the top 10 in its 6th week. I think in its 2nd week it drops to number 4.
Okay. It felt the call of the 4.
Then went to number 6, and then it was number 10 for 2 weeks in a row. So it was just holding on, and I have to imagine that was the second run theater crowd going, we've seen everything else in the January slate right now. Let's give this Al Pacino, Colin Farrell movie a shot. I'm just
shocked that people weren't saying, or we could watch Lost or whatever the fuck is on TV right now. I mean,
we still had to watch that week to week.
I don't know. Maybe they set their DVRs, or they could like pop in a tape from last week. I just, nothing about this film. I cannot fathom what inspires you to leave your home and spend money and sit in a theater to watch this film. Just looking at the poster alone, I don't understand.
Interesting. Okay.
You wait, candy is what you said?
Can't you? Well, we might get into that conversation a little bit more in just a few seconds. Let's talk about money, shall we?
Okay. Yeah.
This movie had a $46 million estimated production budget. It makes domestically $52.7 million. It turns a profit.
Okay. Just
internationally, it brings in $48.3 million. That's right. The Recruit, in 2003, starring Al Pacino and Colin Farrell, breaks the $100 million total box office number for $101 million.
Yeah, it more or less doubles its budget. Like that. This is a successful movie, not like a smash hit success, but this did kind of like what you would hope that a movie would do. Everyone turned a profit.
And I find it to be pretty telling when the domestic and the international are almost split 50-50. Like this general tech thrillers, I think, had a global audience at this time.
I guess, it was really a fertile period for this sort of movie. I have a lot of thoughts about that. I
mean, despite the fact that this is literally based on the CIA, like, you could swap that out for, like, MI6 and have it be cast with British people and keep the same exact plot, and I think it would easily transposed to like a British movie.
Yeah, one of the reviews that I read kind of pointed out that they never really make clear who the foreign enemy in this movie is, so it's very easy.
It's Al Pacino.
Well, and he's from he is Italian, so who knows? But this movie can play pretty much everywhere. It is just in its almost limited scope, it makes itself endlessly marketable as kind of Al Pacino's in that movie to go see anywhere in the world.
And I'm going to tip my hand a little bit for the end of this episode. In doing so, maybe makes it more forgettable.
Oh, what could that be? I don't know. Would we say this movie's forgettable? This movie that winds up here on our podcast.
Truman, how aware? Did you go see The Recruit in the theater when you were in 2003?
You know, my parents and I had our senses so completely blown by Chicago in theaters. We couldn't go see another movie in theaters for months after that. If I gone to see The Recruit, I would be like, why isn't there a song about how great Roxy is in this movie?
Well, right shortly before that, Moulin Rouge had come out in 2001, and I saw that in the theater twice. The second time I saw it, it was a packed theater, and one just dude bro at the end, just to a theater of weepy eyes and people who love the film, just goes, "Well, I'm never seeing another movie again."
What?
So he had the Chicago experience that you just described.
Wait. So does he mean that sucked so bad that I'm never going to see another movie again? Or is he like, I liked that so much I'm never going to see another movie again? Well,
I mean, yeah, I wish you would ask that question of him in the moment. I think he meant that it was so bad or he hated it so much that he'll never watch another one, but his word choice is confusing.
Read the room, dude. Read the room. So he sits through the entire movie, presumably because his girlfriend has made him do it, and rather than just simply keep his mouth shut and go home and be like, this movie didn't appeal to me, but I'm going to get the credit for watching it, I am instead going to make a scene undo any goodwill I would have earned.
I lose sleep some nights thinking of the amount of bro movies he made her go to because
my God.
I went and saw Moulin Rouge with you that one time.
I'm trying to think. What was the bro movie from that? Was it The Departed?
Every movie.
At the end of G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra, I bet she felt totally. I bet she had a totally great response to saying, "I'm never going to see another movie again."
Okay, so you did not see this film. Were you aware of its existence?
No. Like when this movie got spat out for us, I thought for a second that I did remember it, but it turns out I was basically remembering bits and pieces of like 3 different movies and maybe TV shows from this time period.
Okay.
I also read a bunch of paperback techno thrillers in like kind of middle school into high school around this time period that all kind of traded on these same sort of post 9/11 espionage vibes with a Z. So
you're like, did Ryan Phillippe star with Al Pacino in a movie?
Exactly. And like, isn't Gene Hackman in it also? And Robert Redford plays the old spy. And like, I've got
right.
Matt Damon takes out the entire U.S. embassy using kung fu. Like what? No, I had no knowledge of this movie whatsoever. However, I had so much knowledge of the genre that I basically did have knowledge of this movie, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, this movie did not surprise you in any way, shape, or form.
No, it did not, because I had already been trained to trust no one. What about you? Is this one of those many movies you saw in theaters at this point?
Oddly, I'm going to just repeat verbatim what I said in the Simone episode. I saw this in the theater, owned this on DVD.
Why did you own it on DVD? You sick fuck. Why did you buy this movie? Was it part of an estate sale? Was it like a lot? Did you steal a car that had this movie in the back of it? In which case, I want to know why the person who owned the car had this movie in it.
I can't answer for the crimes of my past, Truman. It's
not even a crime. It's just like it's like RFK Jr. like taking a bear from carcass from one place to another. It's just like, I guess that was a crime, but more of like, why? Like, why? Like the why of it.
I was a budding cineast, and I didn't have discerning taste at the time. I just thought every film I liked that I was somewhat interested in, I had to buy so that I could study it and understand it better.
Study the many
How
lessons.
did I know at whatever age I was that I'm not going to say, that there wouldn't be a wellspring of technical knowledge to glean from the recruit as far as filmmaking is concerned.
I mean, you could, and also a lot of technical knowledge you can glean about like how computers work and how hacking works, and like
I will admit, there outside of the being kidnapped and held, tortured, in the holding cell scene. Yeah, I remembered absolutely nothing of this movie.
Wow, but you remembered that scene though?
Yes. Yeah.
When there's so many, okay, and I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying I feel like there's been so many. I've seen so many protagonists get stuffed into so many vans and held in so many dank warehouses. This was it. This was patient zero for the torture scene, espionage torture scene vibe.
I mean, it was specifically the reveal that it was all, an exercise that I remember the most. Whatever. I don't know why I remember it. It's not like it's emotionally poignant or anything, but it's just what stuck in my head.
It is emotionally poignant. This is where we learn how much he loves Layla, because he literally is on his knees at that point and is begging, darling, please, for that cheeseburger. So you remember it. I don't remember it.
Yeah.
Would you call this a techno thriller?
Yeah, I would call this more of a techno thriller than what did we argue about before? Is it Operation Fortune?
God, I don't remember what arguments we've had. I mainly remember us fighting about Ed Burns. I don't think Life or Something Like It is a techno thriller.
You know what? There was an argument on the table I chose not to poke at, but you said this is a techno thriller. I think I know. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna go there. But there has been one on this show before that was or was not a techno thriller. This to me is the epitome of techno thriller.
Okay, boom, we're gonna fight already because I actually don't think this is a techno thriller. I think that it's
shit.
I think you should trust no one, and I think that your eyes can deceive you. And this movie is wearing the disguise of a techno thriller.
Okay,
but it's not. Because I keep forgetting. Is there more shit we have to talk about first, or can I start saying things?
No,
that I think
let's
about
go
the
into
movie?
it.
Okay,
we're hash this out, bro.
Okay, so yes, there is broadly technology in this movie. Like the main character, Colin Farrell's character, he seems to be a computer hacker. He has coded this program that can do weird spy shit. And then the MacGuffin of this movie is a different type of computer hacking called Ice9, which is like a virus that you can plug into an electrical outlet and then it will infect everything on the power grid.
Yes.
Which is frighteningly plausible. But other than that, most of this movie is not about technology at all. Most of this movie is about just interpersonal relationships, lying to people, trying to build trust.
Yeah.
But otherwise, there's not really Colin Farrell's character, after the first scene where we see him demonstrate Spartacus, the next time you see him doing computer stuff, like computer hacking stuff, is an hour and 8 minutes into the movie, and then he basically doesn't do computer again until, the last scene.
Well, okay, I want to take a broader scope question to this, which is, how would you define a techno thriller?
I would define...
Because by what you just described, that also applies to Operation Fortune, where there's a little bit of techno in it, and it's mostly just a lot of nut shots.
Yeah, there's no thriller and very little techno. I mean, I feel like Operation Fortune is more of a techno thriller because there are one or two major scenes in the movie where technology accomplishes a major plot point. The one I can think of is using the AI thing on the fly to change Orson Fortune's voice to sound like...
I'm sorry. It was Money Monster. It was
Money
Money
Monster.
Monster that was the tech thriller issue.
Why would you get Operation Fortune and Money Monster confused?
Well, it wasn't. It was because I don't think either of those are techno thrillers. But
I think that both of them are more so than this, because I think also I would call Money Monster a techno. Yeah, I would absolutely call it a techno thriller because it has the load-bearing hackers who use facial recognition technology to scan every video feed on Earth and find one dude in 20 minutes and then transmit it onto the broadcast.
But okay, is that because that is a pivotal part of moving the story forward? Is that kind of what you mean?
Yes, that's basically how they end the movie. That's how they nail the bad guy. That's how they expose the actual monster behind the money.
Well, that's what happens here too.
No, but it's not. When he tries to use the mastermind program that he designed in the last scene, it doesn't fucking work, and it just comes down to talking again.
So it's a failed techno thriller.
Yes, which kind of makes it better, I think. It's a techno thriller where no one can work the technology. I mean, make your argument for it being a techno thriller.
Well, I mean, I don't want to just make the argument by giving all the inverse points that you just did, but like, it's learning spy stuff through technology. You know, you got the like transparent bugs that play a huge part into, you know, tracking people. You've got lots of surveillance. I think surveillance in and of itself is just a big part of it, of the genre.
Yeah.
I think there's a certain ephemeral tone to techno thrillers. Like this has a pumping, you know, almost industrial house score.
Yes,
it's very electronic.
It might even be techno.
Whether or not the technology works in the end, it is, you know, it's not whether he exposes him through technology. Narratively, it's the technology that gets him to admit that he was wrong because he thinks the technology worked. So, like, it's still technology that gets him to admit. It's just not the technology working that does it.
But it's the psychological concept of technology. It is our faith in technology.
Yeah, which I think has to be part of this too.
Okay, so so what you're saying is it's a deeply religious film then. I mean, look, we can like slice and dice it all we want, and I think you make some valid points. This absolutely has all of the aesthetics of a techno thriller, but I compare it to a movie like Enemy of the State, a movie which I dare say is better than this one. And that one has way more techno in it. There are satellite feeds, and we're hacking into the surveillance cameras, and we're looking at this and that. This movie has, like, the technology in this is basically it's just a MacGuffin. It's just things that they're chasing after. It is the concept of technology. Whereas a movie like Enemy of the State is like, here are multiple different sequences in which the technology is the main thing. Look at the different types of technology we're using to chase this guy down.
Yes, but also, I mean, like, there's kind of the ghost of technology that is painting the characters' mindsets, like the whole idea of cell phones. You know, that's one way that the cops know where the CIA knows where he is at the end of the movie. Or just the idea that they could be, you know, the kind of paranoia of technology. Like, let me ask you a question. Would you say The Conversation is a techno thriller?
A question I was just about to ask you. I guess
what about Blow Up with John Travolta?
Okay. I would say that, I would say The Conversation...
Or Blowout, sorry.
Yeah, Blowout. I mean, is Blow Up a techno thriller? Because it's all about photography and looking at pictures. You know, okay, you make a good point. I would say that both Blow Up and The Conversation are psychological thrillers, but you're right. They do ultimately, like, come down to the application of technology to spy on people.
I think techno thrillers are a subset, or at least like a cousin of psychological thriller. Like, you can't have one without the other.
Sure. No,
it's part of the DNA of thriller. I'm hard pressed to think of a thriller that isn't to some degree psychological.
Yeah, sure. I guess Just this movie, I find, gets more of its thrills from two people sitting and talking to each other and trying to figure out what the other person is actually saying, or trying to get the other person to trust them, than it does from people sitting in front of a computer screen saying, "I'm in," or people like, people clustered around a computer screen saying "enhance."
Well, then I'm going to be Mike Myers in 54 and say, labels don't matter anymore. We have the same thoughts and feelings about this. Whether we call it something completely different is kind of irrelevant, because we're coming at it at the same place.
Yeah, exactly. But basically, you're saying I'm not a techno thriller. I just want to tap your phone.
Sure.
So I don't know. Like, how do you feel? How do you feel about this movie?
I feel good about this movie. I mean, I had fun with this movie. I was wondering, having seen it multiple times before this, how, like, I get a little nervous of things that are so super dated to this era that I'm like, oh God, is this just going to be like an unbearable, like, I know people love the movie Run Lola Run, but that is so rooted in 1998 to me that it's almost unbearable to watch. The fashion, the soundtrack, the style of the filmmaking,
the animated interlude stuff.
It's a little much. And I was actually pleasantly surprised going back to this to go, oh, this is just like harmless good fun. I completely agree. I would not say this is the best movie we've done, but in terms of just long shot
going down the easiest and just like, I had a real good time here. Despite all of my incredulity that anybody would seek out this movie, pay money for this movie, anything, for something that is wrapped in such bland packaging, I found that from scene to scene, I was really kind of delighted by this film.
Yeah, me too. And maybe we can start here the conversation, talking about the director, and I suspect you got a word or two about the writers of this, but
yes, at least one of them, and I have theories about the other two.
Okay, well, I want to talk about Roger Donaldson because he's a director that I think we're gonna come back to again and again and again on the show.
Yes,
and it's weird because he's a director I actually really love.
I have genuinely enjoyed some of his other movies.
Yes. So he's an Australian director. I would say he's maybe the most dad movie director ever.
There's fierce competition for that title.
There is.
You need to be very careful.
But, okay, his first two, like, feature film... Well, first of all, he did this short documentary about a aging man who loved speed, not the drug, velocity, and would build these crafts to, like, break the land speed record. Like, that's pretty daddish. And then he, like, later in his career, reapproached that subject, cast Anthony Hopkins, and made the movie The World's Fastest Indian.
Yes.
Thank you. His first two big feature films, Sleeping Dogs, is a speculative fiction film about Sam Neill, who's a pacifist, getting stuck between this pro and anti-union forces that start a massive land war in New Zealand.
Oof.
Dad stuff.
Yeah.
And then his second film, Smash Palace, is about a mechanic who slowly slips into madness because his wife leaves him, takes his daughter, he kidnaps his daughter and tries to, like, force her to love him and goes slowly like Rambo throughout the film. It's crazy.
Now he plays a mechanic. Would that make it a techno thriller? Or would that wait, what about a mechno thriller?
Well, okay, the mechno thrillers, I would maybe save those for, like, I don't know, Mecha Godzilla films.
Okay, yeah, or Neon Genesis Evangelion. Yeah. That's a mechno thriller. Yeah,
maybe,
gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, so he crashes onto American shores with his take on Mutiny on the Bounty, starring Mel Gibson, Daniel Day-Lewis, and Anthony Hopkins in 1984. Dad.
Just called The Bounty, which kind of presages the trend, more recently of, like, if we're going to do a remake of a big movie, we're just gonna shorten the title.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, there were so many Mutiny on the Bounty takes before this one, so I don't blame him.
they should just do one called On the. You know, no one's done that before.
Okay, he has a big breakthrough with Tom Cruise's Cocktail in 1988, and then just does a litany of forgotten films.
Oh, hold on. You're overlooking No Way Out, starring Kevin Costner, a movie that totally rocks. I watched that movie just thinking it was going to be a piece of fluff, and I was really blown away at just like how tightly crafted and how genuinely surprising of a spy movie with a lot of twists and turns that was. Go watch No Way Out.
I didn't skip over it. I was going to include it in his litany of forgotten films because I think you can apply what you just said to a lot of these, which is Cadillac Man with Robin Williams and Tim Robbins, The Getaway with Alec Baldwin and Kim Basinger,
Oh, yes.
Species, Dante's Peak, the JFK Cuban Missile Crisis movie, 13 Days.
Yeah, the Jason Statham movie, The Bank Job.
Exactly.
He breaks into the bank vault by holding up a map with his fist behind it and just punches straight through the wall.
He does that to the bank vault.
Yeah, exactly. That's the job.
Oh man. Anyway, he's a director who like doesn't have a distinctive style. He's kind of like Alan J. Pakula or Robert Wise or something. So I think it's why we don't know him as a name. Just because he kind of disappears from movie to movie.
Yeah. I have to say, I don't know if I would call Species forgotten, largely because I was at a friend's house recently and he had Species playing while we were hanging out.
Yeah.
But no, that's a movie where you just glance at the screen and every second it's like, motherfucker, Alfred Molina's in this movie?
Yes.
Ben Kingsley is in this movie? Forrest Whitaker is in this movie?
Going back to our Poltergeist episode, Species is one of those films that I feel like kind of is in this divide between like genre fans are not going to forget Species.
No.
The general movie-going audience probably has not remembered Species in the last 20 years.
Based on the age group of the people I was hanging out with that night, who I dare say are a little bit closer to your age, there also seems to be a big crowd of, if you were a heterosexual boy in the, in that time period and you wanted to see boobs and your family had HBO, if you were, if Species was on at the right time, you were having a good night.
Well, I wasn't going to go into my Species stuff, but there were a lot of like playground rumors, like before the internet, like there was you won't believe what I saw in this film, and then like give an exaggerated account of what they actually saw. There is a moment when tentacles come out of her nipples in that film. On the playground, the talk turned to it coming out of something else, and it showed it all, man. You got to go see it.
So
gross stuff.
Some kid sells you on this very, very overblown tentacle, heavy version of Species, and you go and you watch it and you see that it's actually not that crazy, and then you go back to him the next day on the playground and he's like, "You gotta trust nobody. Your tentacles will deceive you."
Oh God. Okay. So that's Roger Donaldson. I really like him a lot. I think he brings something to this film that another director would. Like if this was directed by Mick G, this film would be so forgotten.
I agree. Like this movie is never boring to look at. It's got I feel like the camera's moving a lot. There's a lot of really crazy Dutch angles, kind of like
there's
the camera,
a lot of handheld Dutch angles in this.
Yeah, woof. Which is when the camera is tilted at like a sharp angle to make you feel a little off balance, like you never really know if your feet are firmly planted in reality.
Let's start talking about this film. The structure of the story is so bizarre that it's hard to like know how to structure the conversation. Like in broad strokes, there's the recruiting phase where Al Pacino is kind of courting and dating Al Pacino. Oh God, I want to see that film. Al Pacino dating
multiple
Al Pacino.
roles. Give it to me. Give it to me. Come on, he's old. Greenlight that movie now.
I've got a great big ass.
When I think about my own ass, something comes out of me. Tentacles.
Jesus Christ. That film just took a weird fucking turn. I can see why he didn't sign on to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I appreciate that this movie gets the recruiting out of, like, it's called The Recruit, and like probably 5 minutes in, it's like, oh, okay, well, I got what I paid money for.
Yeah.
But it's basically him getting enticed into the CIA, him training to be a spy, and then him spying, basically. Those are the three things in the movie.
Some sort of operative
Yeah.
shenanigans, yeah. So it does feel like structured differently than most films, narratively.
Yeah, and I think that also, like, and many reviews that I've read have said the same thing, is that the first 2/3, him getting baited into the CIA and him training to be a spy, I think is when the movie is at its strongest, and then kind of, as all the spy stuff is coming to a head, you start to feel like, oh, you didn't really, like, I feel like the destination is not as exciting as the journey.
It was almost like at, the 1 hour marker, they're like, oh, we gotta come up with a story for this thing.
Yeah, it's like Roger Towne hit the 60-page mark, and then he got a call from his agent, and it's like, oh, yeah, it's actually not a TV pilot, it's gonna be a movie. Can you do another hour? and then he had to improvise.
Do you want to talk about Roger Towne for a second?
He is the brother of famed Academy Award-winning screenwriter Robert Towne. If you like a movie called Chinatown or a movie called The Last Detail.
Is this a scenario of, like, Liam Hemsworth getting cast in Incredible, the Expendables 2, or is it a case of, like, Marvin Berry is the one that is at local dances playing music, and Chuck Berry is the one off doing the big concerts?
There's a bunch of moments in this movie where I think, oh wow, that's a really clever bit, or that's a really clever turn of phrase. That must be the good screenwriting runs in the Towne family's blood. But then I'm also like, well, there's also 2 other writers who appear to be script doctors who had a pass at this script, and it's just like this whole deal was getting passed around and polished between a couple of different folks for probably years.
This film definitely feels like, especially the credits, feel like an arbitration, fingerprint all over it, where I could see, like, Colin Farrell is coming up in his career, you know, like his American career. Like, you could see producers going, we got to find a vehicle for this guy. You've got the Al Pacino of it all, who is in an interesting point in his career. Maybe we'll get to both of them in a little bit, but I could see different producers, managers going, let's look for some material. They have some notes. They want to take it in a different direction, and, like, this thing just kind of turning into what it turned into.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess maybe that is a process that is endemic to techno or techno-adjacent thrillers, because I feel kind of the same way about Operation Fortune. As far as Roger Towne is concerned, this is a guy who's only written 4 movies, and, but the first of them is The Natural with Robert Redford, which is a really well-regarded movie. So I don't know if it's a case where just, like, he had a couple of spec scripts that he wrote that were circulating and then were, got bought and got polished up, because there were other writers credited on The Natural as well, both the guy who wrote the book and then also a screenwriter, Phil Dusenberry.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, Robert Towne is a personality when it comes to screenwriting.
Oh, certainly.
Like, every word that's on the page is his, whereas clearly Roger Towne doesn't have the name in the pantheon the way that his brother does. So
yeah,
he probably can't demand as much.
But after The Natural, which is in the mid-'80s, he didn't really write another movie until a made-for-TV movie, In the Company of Spies, in 1999. So it seems like maybe just espionage was on his mind in the 90s. He wrote a couple scripts, and then this one just was out there, got optioned, got passed around, and then everything came together, like you said.
Well, yeah, okay, so this is a good way to get into some of the scenes here, where the initial name of this movie was The Farm, and I think that was the seed of what the first, pass of this film probably was. Like, let's do an All the President's Men sort of take on CIA training. We don't know who these people are. CIA doesn't even acknowledge that this place exists. Like, there's a cool, dramatic thriller in that.
Yeah.
Then it gets Hollywoodized with these other, with I'm not going to put it at the feet of any of these writers, but just through the process is like, well, what if we gave him daddy issues and then brought in the operative stuff at the end and kind of tied this in a pretzel and made people think it's smarter than it is?
They made it a Spartacus sandwich. They made it a tech thriller sandwich. Spartacus is at the beginning and Spartacus is at the end, but in the middle is sort of this movie that almost feels kind of like a 70s DC, like All the President's Men, like a 70s paranoia thriller, spy thriller.
Yeah.
And the fact that, and it's almost as though this is a movie that this feels like a thing that is from before 9/11, certainly, and then just sort of after 9/11, there's suddenly this big market for espionage movies, CIA movies, spy movies, and this got dusted off. They inserted one cryptic line from Colin Farrell about how the CIA are a bunch of fat old white guys who fell asleep when we needed them the most, and then put out onto the market.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing we can prove with that, but that sounds right on the money to me. Let's just get through the recruiting part, and then let's talk about the farm part, and then we'll talk about the operative part at the end.
Yeah, so here's my big question about the recruiting part. You know, we meet Colin Farrell's character. He is the college kid at this tech fair hackathon where he demonstrates the Spartacus system for a Dell rep, where he like
there's so much Dell. I was shocked that a company would actually put their logo on this.
I know that a company would let itself be a character in the movie. This Dell representative sees a demo of him, like, you know,
so many Dell logos.
Colin Farrell uses he pulls out his bag full of CDs and puts it into the disk drive on the Dell laptop and uses it.
Children of a certain age knows what a CD visor or a CD case looks like.
I was expecting him to flip past Spartacus and like the next thing is the DVD for Fight Club and then the next thing is a Creed CD. But he uses this program, Spartacus, to then hack into all the other screens at the tech fair and have him on there. And then the Dell guy gives him some money. He's like very impressed. He gives him his card and then he says, hey, can you put our logo up at the Sony booth? And he goes, yeah. And it's like, well, wait, so Dell was not only willing to be in this movie, Dell was willing to depict themselves as trying to knife one of their competitors at a hackathon.
This is before the dude get a Dell thing, I think.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one of his college friends standing around him went on to become the dude you're getting a Dell kid.
Yeah, there's a little bit before that, too, though. I mean, I don't want to skip over the credits, which, to me, the credits alone tell us we're in a techno-thriller, because we get, like, very techno-y typefaces, fonts, and stuff like that. We got a score. I'm not gonna lie, Truman. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like the score to this. The score kind of worked on me. I'm not gonna lie. It doesn't have Spanish guitar in it, but I enjoyed it.
On the one hand, I want to trust no one. On the other hand, I mean, it's not bad. The music in this movie is not terrible.
But over the techno music, over the techno-y titles, you get a lot of like shots of computer screen, very pixelated. Like we're really close and seeing words from articles and.
And it's all these articles though about the mystery surrounding the death of Colin Farrell's dad, and it's all like posts on like what looks to be. Like, I'm sure in 2003 this looked like a normal or professionally made website, but now looks like a total crank website. So this whole opening credits looks like just a POV shot of your uncle getting sucked into QAnon. It's all just going down different conspiracy rabbit holes, different, like, words in a news release getting highlighted and coming together to form something else.
Well, okay, this whole title sequence ends with Al Pacino, just a shot of him in the dark looking at the computer screens. Like, it's not even him looking at the computer screens, it's just his face illuminated with what looks like the light from a computer screen. So clearly he's going through all this, doing his research to recruit Colin Farrell.
Yes. And then it's Colin Farrell getting awakened because he's late to the hackathon. He comes running out of the house with his bicycle, and he does something that is just that just boggles my mind. He comes. This is Colin Farrell clearly because it's all one shot and we see his face. Comes running out of the house with a bike over his shoulder, slams the bike down on the ground, gets a running start, leaps up, and lands so hard on that bicycle seat. And I'm like, Colin Farrell are your jimmies okay? That looks unbearable. I hope they gave him a cup or something.
Closer to Operation Fortune Roostagare than we want to admit.
Yes, there was a map spread out over the bike seat.
So much testicle abuse in both of those movies.
Orson Fortune used the handle to disguise himself as a bicycle. Go on.
Okay. What I kind of appreciate about this movie is I don't like Enemy of the State because a lot of the tech in that came out in 1999, I want to say.
1998. Even though it feels so much like a 2002 movie, but yes.
But that movie came out at a precarious time because it was like, I feel like the filmmakers were like, no one's ever going to know how technology actually works, so we can still do the magic shit with it. And it's unwatchable to me today where I'm just like, I can't even buy what you're selling me because it's so out of the realm of possibility.
But I feel like, has any techno thriller ever actually aged well in that regard?
I feel like this one works fine. It's dated, but he's not doing anything that would have not been achievable.
Because there's almost no technology in it short of just the concept of technology. It's not a thing of we have this tiny camera that's the size of your fingernail that can shoot 4K HD and enhance. That's not in there. It's just, hey, here's how you follow someone around and pass paper notes back and forth at dead drop locations.
Well, I would argue that is more technology than magic, where I feel like Enemy of the State it veers into fantasy land where Jack Black is enhancing, and then getting a 3D image of what's inside a bag because he zoomed in so close to it. I'm like, what the fuck are we even doing here?
I don't know. I think that to me is the epitome of techno thriller is technology doing insane stuff, and this movie where it's just this is just all 70s style spycraft with the exception of two elements that may as well just be a white cube with the word technology written on it for how they actually play into the movie.
It's the Repo Man technology.
Yes, exactly. It's generic technology.
Well, okay, listen, we don't need to relitigate that, but because we're on the same page with where this movie is. But I appreciate that this film is doing stuff that was there's research put into this to a degree.
Well, yeah,
your skepticism almost put you to sleep.
Research done into the CIA, I feel like in a lot of regards, the stuff at the farm, the spy training stuff, the way that the spies interact, and the whole emphasis on confidentiality, and the memorial wall is just stars and no names and everything. I think in that regard it feels realistic. I don't think there was any research on the tech stuff because, again, I think it was just these were just placeholder concepts put in at the beginning and end.
I don't know. I mean, the whole Spartacus concept is that you can tap into any wireless broadcasting system and take it over and display what you want to on their feed.
Yeah.
The thing is, wireless technology, as far as Wi-Fi and stuff, wasn't even really a thing yet.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
I mean, it's working on things that existed but weren't quite in the collective conscious yet or collective use. So, they had to have done some research of, okay, what is something people are kind of aware of, but, I think it's just we've lost due to how much technology has changed and what is so commonplace now. We've lost it. That was just slightly above the curve.
Okay.
Time.
Okay. Fair. That feels like. Yes, there's some research went into that. I would say maybe 3 hours of research, depending on how fast your internet was to read load
counts.
the Kotaku articles or whatever.
If I was an administrator taking that checkoff sheet that someone had, did they do technology? Yes, check. Okay, great.
Yep, exactly.
Pass it to my superior.
So, speaking of superiors, Al Pacino is at the tech fair. He watches this whole thing happen from a distance. We then we cut to the bar where Colin Farrell works. I want to say This is kind of the first element of what I call the loser connection. Actually, this is the second element of the loser connection.
I knew you were going to bring it up. I can't wait for the next one. But
okay, so the first one is that when he first gets to the tech thing because he overslept, he's like, "I'm so sorry, I had a waterbed emergency and I was late getting here." Much like Loser.
Yes.
But then, we cut to the bar where he works, and there's like this pop punk music playing. There's a couple people running into the bar. The way we're pushing into the bar, and Colin Farrell working behind the bar, I'm almost like, is Mina Suvari serving these drinks? Is there a weird guy asking for her underwear there?
Did you not flag that later in this film, to get away from the tail he has, he literally dresses like Jason Biggs from Loser.
He reverses his jacket, and the lining of his jacket looks exactly like Jason Biggs's hat in the movie Loser.
Well, and he steals a hat from someone and puts it on. It's got the ear flaps and everything on it.
I was so busy having I remember that he put on the hat with ear flaps. I was mainly clocking the pattern on the jacket that I didn't even then pair the two things. It's I don't know. I mean, is Loser spying on us through the recruit, or was the recruit spying on us through Loser? Like, it was anticipating what kind of stuff we wanted to see in a movie by giving us everything we didn't want in a movie with Loser.
And I just want to point out the pop punk music that you have identified there is the most 2003 music you can ever have.
Yeah.
It is by a band called Hoobastank.
Oh no. Oh God, not Hoobastank.
And Colin Farrell looks like he just came from a Hoobastank concert. He's got like a white knit kind of like linen shirt on that isn't crew cut, but it's like it's a loose fit, and then it's got a little slit cut in it just so that you can see his like tight leather necklace.
Oh yeah,
it has a pewter cross hanging from it.
You know, in his
so
little,
much hair gel
in his packet of discs, his disc satchel where he keeps Spartacus.
Yes.
There is also like 3 Hoobastank CDs, and also probably the PlayStation disc for Twisted Metal 2 or something.
Oh my God, I feel very seen right now.
But he's at this bar, he is bartending, and then he sees sitting opposite him Al Pacino reading a newspaper more conspicuously than anyone has ever read a newspaper, like ruffling it and doing business with it. And let's talk about Al Pacino.
Okay.
From the first second he's on screen with this newspaper, that was when I realized, oh yes, the movie Simone stars an actor named Al Pacino.
It does.
The Recruit is our first Al Pacino movie.
Okay, let me go into this real quick.
Go into this.
This movie is the movie that came on the heel, like 6 months after Simone was released. This film was being shot while Simone was in theaters.
I can see why he seems so low energy in Simone, because I guess this was being shot while Simone. Well, okay, then he saw. I was going to say, when I thought that both films were shot at the same time, that he seemed low energy in Simone because he spent all his energy shooting the scenes in this movie. I now realize that he just saw Simone in theaters and thought, oh shit, I got to do my Al Pacino thing in movies. That's what makes the movies good.
But I mean, outside of the end of this scene, or the end of this movie, and a little bit to this, like he's at like, if in Simone he's playing a 4, like here he's playing mostly a 7.
Yeah,
he's not Any Given Sunday, like the knob fell off the dial.
Yes, exactly. I was rewatching the scene of him and Hank Azaria in Heat earlier, and I'm like, well, obviously we're not there, but also I think I talked about this in Simone as well. I think the fact that he stopped doing cocaine, or at least stopped doing so much cocaine between the 90s and now, has some effect on the height of energy he's able to get to. Like, I was also watching the Dunkachino singing and dancing commercial he did for Jack and Jill before this, and he's great in that. That's an astounding performance, but even that doesn't get to the level of energy that he was bringing in the 90s. So,
well, yes, obviously. I mean, yeah, it's a caricature of himself at that point.
I'm just saying, I think that I'm grading him on a curve, and there's a lot more energy here than he brought in Simone, and I think that it really almost makes the movie for me. It really seals the whole deal. Because Pacino is sitting there, he's reading the paper, Colin Farrell comes over to him and asks if he wants a drink, and Al Pacino just starts ripping up the newspaper as he talks to him. He rips it in half, and then he rips it into quarters, and then he rips it into eighths, and he's doing this whole thing about how, like, you don't know shit! And then flips the newspaper over, folds it, and suddenly the newspaper is all in one piece once again.
Yeah. You basically getting the point across of, like, what you think you see is not the reality of things.
This is a pickup artist tactic to just do close-up magic to a complete stranger to get their attention.
Wow, you're not wrong.
And
you're
then
not wrong.
And then he basically starts negging Colin Farrell.
Yeah.
I mean,
and he leaves his number behind. He's like, my number's on the sports pages. Give me a call.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll be in town for 24 hours.
He's not there very long. He does not overstay his welcome. It's so ridiculous. And he is like, the way that he introduces himself as a CIA recruiter is he lays the newspaper flat and then takes a pen and dramatically circles the letters CIA in special in one of the ads.
Yeah.
And then
maybe
also
something that, as a covert CIA operative, you don't want to leave evidence behind. Maybe there's a number of, like, questionable like conversations that are happening in public in this movie that I'm like, is that on and on cell phones? Like,
yes.
Maybe you want to take your own advice and don't do that.
There's a lot of really questionable espionage maybe, in this movie, but I actually like this a lot. I do this.
Too. I'm not mad at it. I'm just pointing my finger at it.
I think that this is. I saw him do that and I was like, oh, of course, a CIA agent wouldn't want to say CIA out loud in case he's being listened to. This is all deniable evidence, and, like, who can say why the circle was there? This movie really makes you think.
2 seconds later, he says CIA.
And then I'm just like, this movie makes me laugh. I now understand it. He literally said, like, a CIA recruiter. But just this sets the tone, I think, so well for the movie, of just Al Pacino being kind of wild and Colin Farrell just always being, like, 5 steps behind everything that's going on. And I think that, I don't know, I think that there's a lot of stuff in this movie that is well written. I think there's a lot of scenes, there's a lot of lines that are really good. Like, this is a scene where, like, Colin Farrell asks him, you know, when he realizes it's a potential job in the CIA, he goes, like, do I have to kill anybody? And Al Pacino kind of cocks his head and goes, what, do you want to? Like, there's just a fun interplay in a lot of these scenes that I have not always seen in other movies.
And I think the big takeaway from this scene is, like, he gives his negging pitch for, like, why he wants him to work for the CIA or train or try out for the CIA.
Yeah.
Is it called tryouts? I get pissed off when people, like, when I went to auditions and people are like, are you going to that tryout?
Yeah,
what do you call it when you're trying to get into the CIA?
I think it's like a screening exam. I don't think they call it auditions or tryouts. I think it's its own special third thing.
Okay. Well, anyway, he's giving his pitch for why he wants him to try to join the CIA, but he hooks him with all this dad stuff, the stuff that we saw in the opening montage. Clearly, you know, Colin Farrell doesn't have the answers about his dad that he wants. Colin Farrell was a young boy when his dad was taken away from him in 1990.
Yeah.
He has his own story that he doesn't quite believe about what happened to his dad dying in a plane crash.
Yeah.
And Al Pacino hooks into this by dropping lines about, like, you know, alluding to his father potentially of being a CIA operative and the plane crash was a cover-up.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, Colin Farrell dismisses him as saying, like, oh, the CIA just all fell asleep on the job and let 9/11 happen, and I don't want to work with you. And he goes, oh, yeah, you'll probably just work in oil, just like your dad. And then Colin Farrell chases him out of the bar.
And he gives this, like, spiel. I wish I'd written it down point for point, but he's like, let me tell you how this is going to play out. tomorrow you're going to get a call from that Dell representative, and they're going to make you an offer. You're going to start working for them. Eventually, you're going to end up working for Bethesda. Not the gaming company, right?
You're going to be living in Bethesda, not working for Bethesda.
Okay, I got confused.
You're going to be making
I'm like,
Fallout 3, Elder Scrolls 5, Skyrim.
And living in Bethesda, that makes more sense. Telling him basically how his life is going to play out, the money he's going to make, and just like it's going to be a predictable living, and you won't ever have any answers to the questions that are plaguing you. Or you can come on this adventure with me and see what comes up.
You take the red pill and see how deep the rabbit hole goes, etc.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that works on him, and that gets him to that gets him to go and take all these tests at the CIA and basically wind up heading to the farm.
Yeah, let's go to the farm. And
barnyard, I suppose.
One of my notes here is just, at what point in this episode is Truman going to mention barnyard?
Well, I was thinking really hard about all the scenes at the farm, and I was like, is there anything that could be construed as dancing or partying? But no, sadly, these CIA trainees...
It's one of their missions.
No, one of their missions is they go to a bar, and I was like, but do they dance? None of them are dancing. They go.
No. There's dancing in the background. So, like, barnyard is happening behind them.
Yeah, but all of the principals in barnyard are dancing and are very serious about it.
Yes.
And also...
That's what I'm saying. Like in the background of this movie, Wild Mike is having a grand old time. We're not focused on it because Colin Farrell is trying to get Bridget Moynahan out there to have sex with him.
This is true. And well, again, Colin Farrell's character is named James Clayton, so maybe he has an uncle, Wild Mike. That's right, Michael Clayton. He's a kind of weird under the table lawyer in New York, having a much better adventure in a much better movie.
Not a techno thriller.
That is certifiably true. That is not a techno thriller.
I wrote something down here, and I feel like I'm a little nervous about it. But I thought that this sets the scene so well for the rest of the movie.
Okay.
That I thought maybe it might be worth attempting.
All right.
Here's what I got. We see these like entrance exams and these psychological exams that are conducted on everyone, but we see it through Colin Farrell's eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Al Pacino and others are surveilling the written exam, who's cheating, who's not. Colin Farrell is distracted by a girl behind him. Turns out it's the introduction of Bridget Moynahan.
Yeah.
Layla.
Yeah.
And we start to see this like weird manipulation stuff where Al Pacino says into an agent's ear, tell him to keep his eye on the prize and
stop looking at the girl, focus on the test. Yeah.
And then the administrator of the test comes over and whispers to him like, keep your eye on the test. There'll be time later for the girl or something like that.
Excuse me, sir. Al Pacino is telling you that you're being too horny right now. Please focus on your test.
So that's just like to whittle down the amount of applicants they have to get to the farm.
Yes.
When they arrive at the farm, we're starting to see familiar faces. People had ridden on buses together, and we kind of get a sense of all the characters. Gabriel Macht is kind of introduced in this, speaking Farsi, and we're starting to get the flavors of what everyone can bring to the table in terms of their skills.
Yes. And when we get to the farm, it also, like, I start to get, like, these almost... I get kind of Silence of the Lambsy vibes a little bit, like, at least at the beginning when she's at the FBI Academy, and I feel like there's something just sort of, I think, inherently interesting about watching people get trained to do a cool job. Watching all these people going to spy school on their little spy bus and going to, like, their, here's how you throw a bomb under a car. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's, like, or it's, like, spy summer camp. Like, that juxtaposition, like, seeing someone walk onto a bus full of strangers to go learn something is, like, a very relatable experience. I feel like everybody has that first day of school, first day on the bus moment.
Yeah.
But then it's translating it into this it's a thing that everybody knows going into an environment that very few people know. And I don't know.
It was fun.
I get why this is probably what Roger Towne wrote the script about originally, because this is a good hook.
Yeah, it absolutely is. But once they get there, they are all in this log cabin looking classroom.
Yeah.
For the first day of class, and it turns out Al Pacino, not only the recruiter, he's going to be the head instructor for their training.
The U.S. intelligence community is in such a budget crisis right now that their recruiters have to also be the teachers. It's terrible that they have to double up on work like that.
I have written down his monologue.
Oh. Okay, so we're both committing to actually trying to do Pacino impressions this time around.
Now listen, I will admit I have a terrible Al Pacino. For some reason, when I do Pacino, it goes a little southern. So I'm gonna read this monologue because I think that it sets the stage for what happens afterward. But I have to warn you. When I do Pacino, it starts to go a little southern.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that I'm going to do Jackie Gleason from Smokey and the Bandit doing Al Pacino in The Recruit.
Okay, he sounds pretty southern in this movie, so you wouldn't be too far off if you get in that direction. But I believe in you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I might, let's all be prepared. I might bail on this halfway through and just end up doing spoken word poetry.
Well, it's not like you've built up to it in any way or done a lot of preamble that might get people's hopes up or make them feel cheated if you don't do the entire thing.
Maybe I'll just switch to Brando halfway through.
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah,
that's my style.
Yeah, that'll really juice the energy.
Okay, all right. So here's his monologue that kind of sets up why the CIA, right? Why they're here and what they can expect out of this whole experience.
So, why are you here? Why are you here? It ain't the money. As a GS pay grade officer, yours truly, I reckon about what? 70 grand a year? Can't buy a decent sports car for that. It ain't sex. Hey, being here won't get you laid. Oh, you're a dental hygienist? I'm a member of the CIA, Moscow Station Chief. Hello?
Ha 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 ha.
What about fame? Our failures are known. Our successes are not. That's the company motto. You save the world, they send you some dusty basement at Langley. They give you some lemonade and some cookies, show you a medal. You don't even get to take it home. So it ain't the money. It ain't sex. It ain't fame. What is it?
What is it?
I say we're all here in this room because we believe.
It's starting to feel like a revival now.
We believe in good and evil. And we choose good. We believe in right and wrong. And we choose right. Our cause is just. Our enemies everywhere. They're all around us. Some scary stuff out there, which brings us here to the farm. You have all just stepped through the looking glass. What you see, what you hear, nothing is what it seems.
Trust nobody.
Trust nobody.
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 Nope. Can we end that? Can we stop that?
That's as much Pacino as I feel safe doing. The longer
Just one words?
I mean, well, I can do short phrases, but the longer I do Pacino, the more it just sounds like Southern. It's a very But that
a weird thing for someone with the most New York accent there is.
I during this movie, especially during the monologue that you just did, I actually paused the movie and looked him up online. It's like, is he from like Florida or something? Like, why does he sound like this? How did he get more Southern as he aged? Like in like Serpico and everything, he almost sounds Jewish, but then in like he just, I don't know. As he got older,
Treading dangerous waters.
Accent just worked downstream. Yeah, but he gives this big scenery chewing monologue that's just about that is just like, yeah, you're gonna labor in obscurity. No one will appreciate the work that you do. Being a spy basically sucks, but we do it because we, believe in something greater.
Yeah, it's a vocation. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than me. We're here to contribute to the greater good of the world.
Yes, and also, P.S., you gotta trust nobody! So, Does that almost feel like the Any Given Sunday pep talk a little bit? It kind of just like throws us right into the next like 20 minutes of movie.
But I would say that Any Given Sunday pep talk is like the steak is done on the grill. This version is like the steak is still thawing a little bit.
Yeah, fair. I mean, well, yeah, there's still a lot of movie left to uncork.
That's true.
But yeah, this gets them started in their training and just learning a bunch of I don't know, right? Like it goes to a montage at this point. It's them doing karate. It's them throwing car bombs around. It's them learning about the stupid listening bugs, the listening devices that automatically evaporate.
They're made of a biological compound that will disintegrate over 24 hours.
So you can like put it on someone and this thing will wirelessly transmit perfect audio, but then slowly dissolve, and so no one will ever find it. Which is like,
correct.
I guess that sort of nudges us into techno thrillerdom, because that absolutely makes no sense. They're biologically grown listening. Like, what is that? Like, do they grow them on the farm? Is there some kind of listening device cow that like they milk these things out of?
Ew, gross. Why couldn't you grow it in the ground like a plant? Why do you have to come out of a cow's udder? You have taken on Steve Odekirk syndrome.
I'm sorry. It's just like, does Al Pacino have an udder in this movie? And if not, why not?
Also, during this montage, like, we get like a kind of continuation of that monologue, which I won't do, but Pacino's also telling us like things that we don't see that they're going to do. Like, you're going to learn how to put together an AK-47 blindfolded while jumping out of while parachuting out of a Black Hawk helicopter. I don't know, I'm making stuff up now.
Well, yeah, no, there's literally, he's talking to Bridget Moynahan at one point, and she's like putting together a sniper rifle and is saying like, yeah, I can do it now, but can I do it backflipping out of a helicopter or something? That's, I don't know why. Backflipping.
But Pacino is like just talking about all the different things that they're going to learn to do here. This is a lot. I really enjoyed this sequence, actually.
Yeah,
like,
this is great.
We've talked a little bit already about just the kind of fun of this idea, watching. What does David Chase say about people learning how to be good at their job rather than being good at their job?
You know, honestly, he does live in my basement. I can go down and ask him if you give me just a minute. But no, it's because I feel like also watching, like, it gives the movie a certain level of I don't know, it feels almost a little more realistic just seeing the kind of like gritty process of them learning these things and them being hardened and being taught not to trust anybody, being taught to be deceptive.
Yeah. I mean, because they're engaging in games, and the movie itself is kind of like trying to be a game of like, who can you trust, who can you not trust. Like, I really like the exercise that they have to do, where after the bugs are introduced, they have to go in pairs into what they call the bug house. And leave behind 2 bugs without being seen, and they have 8 minutes to do it.
Yes.
And we watch a couple of the groups do it, and like, one goes into a place where 2 people are sleeping, very quiet, thinks he has done a good job. The second he places the bug, the like robot people sit up in bed and start speaking in Spanish.
Yeah.
And he gets locked in the room.
Yeah, like,
and then another
steel
guy,
doors close over the doors and windows.
Yeah, another one does it like in a closet or like behind a clock or something, and again the doors lock them in. And then finally we see Colin Farrell's him and his partner, and they use some sort of spray to see the laser things going across the thing.
Yeah.
And very good, they step over it, but then they don't notice that there's another one a little bit further down the hallway, and his partner gets his leg slammed in this door, and he has to make a quick decision, Colin Farrell does, and he dives for the window that's right there and exits before anything happens. He gets away scot-free, the bugs are planted, and they're good to go.
So, I think I agree that's a fun sequence. I think that this brings me to kind of a big overarching point about this movie. So, Colin Farrell's the only one to make it out of the bug house.
Yeah.
Does he make it out of the bug house because he is so good and so stealthy that he is able to plant the bug and avoid all of the countermeasures and sneak out because of some innate ability? No. He makes it out because he's willing to dive headfirst through a plate glass window.
Yeah. I mean, it plays into one of the themes of this movie. Are you willing to do whatever it takes to become a CIA agent?
Sure, yeah. I mean, of course, if the goal, the CIA's goal in planting the bug is for no one to know the bug is there. If your agent plants the bug, draws attention to himself, and is able to escape instead of getting captured, okay, great. Don't get caught is a big part of the mantra here at the farm. But also, well, then the whole operation is a failure. You don't have your bug. They know that someone was in there trying to plant a bug.
Or what if you plant a decoy bug and draw your attention to the decoy bug by jumping out the window, but really the real bug was downstairs the whole time and the people never knew about it?
Now that, you know what, that's kind of a Columbo move, honestly. Columbo would distract you with something. I've been watching a lot of Columbo lately, folks. You're going to be hearing more about it. Columbo would be great at the farm. I think he would be an excellent spy. Why?
He'd walk in and just go, wait a minute, I know something's up with Al Pacino here.
Yeah,
I just got to prove it by the end of this thing.
It's just one more thing. You keep saying that we're supposed to trust no one. Then why are we supposed to trust you exactly? So here's my question. I said why in a gratingly high pitch just a moment ago, and I'm going to say it again. Why have they recruited Colin Farrell?
Uh-huh.
Why are they... Okay.
Yes.
Al Pacino.
You can ask it again.
Al Pacino. Why does Al Pacino go to a MIT hackathon and see a guy who's a really good computer programmer who has majored in the field of, quote, nonlinear cryptography? Why does he see this super nerd computer expert and say, you should be in the CIA, and then say, so we're going to train you to do karate and plant bugs and be a field operative?
Correct.
What skill set is Colin Farrell bringing to the table here?
Yes. That's right.
That's so my answer was why, and your answer is yes?
Yes, that's right.
I
do have an answer.
Okay, well then give me the answer. When I said why, the idea was that you would then give me your response.
I mean, I was trying to let you know that is a valid question to ask.
Thank you.
I did have the same question after I watched this the first time for this movie. I watched this movie 3 times for today's episode.
Whoa.
There is an audio commentary on the DVD, so one of them was with the commentary.
Who
was a significant portion of the commentary Colin Farrell admitting to hitting on Bridget Moynahan for most of the shoot? Maybe. Not gonna dox him.
You scamp. Was Mr. Pacino taking part in this audio commentary?
No, it was Roger Donaldson and Colin Farrell.
Yeah, still. Basically a podcast, really.
Watching it for the second time, the answer, in my eyes, was like so deceptively simple that I'm like, well, god damn it, this fucking movie.
Well, okay.
it manipulated me. It tricked me. I fell for its scam.
You gotta trust nobody.
I trusted nobody the first time, and look where it got me.
Yeah, okay. See, there you go. Okay.
I should have trusted the film was telling me exactly what it was doing.
Sometimes you can follow Al Pacino's advice a little too hard. Okay, so what's the answer?
He is not recruiting him to be a CIA agent. Mm-hmm. He's recruiting him to be a scapegoat.
Okay.
And he's recruiting him, as he says in the car later on, I picked you because you have daddy issues and she's an orphan, therefore you both fall into the plan that I have set so easily together.
Okay. I like that, and that makes sense, because I would also argue another huge component of this movie that I secretly love, or actually not, I'm admitting it actually and recording it, and we're going to release it publicly, so I'm publicly admitting I love this about the movie. Colin Farrell absolutely sucks at being a spy. His character is terrible at all of the stuff they're trying to teach him to do. So it makes sense that Al Pacino, who, spoiler alert, is not the good guy in this movie, would recruit the dumbest, most incompetent spy he could find.
Yeah, because he fits the schema for his scheme. See what I did there?
It'd be hard not to. It'd have to be as blind as Al Pacino instead of a woman to not see that one.
But the larger question then becomes, like, why are not the why are the other recruits, why are the other agents who actually applied to the CIA, why are they not, like, totally pissed off that Colin Farrell becomes the NOC? Oh, yeah. Wait, the movie just tricked me again right this second. Colin Farrell is never the NOC. Yeah. He is the fake NOC. Wait a minute. Hold on.
You gotta trust nobody, Landon.
There's a movie happening here that we aren't watching.
Yeah.
There's a movie happening here from the real CIA agent's point of view, where, like, Gabriel Mock actually gets chosen as the NOC, as the knock, and we are only privy to Colin Farrell's perspective getting kind of branched off from what the actual story is for the CIA agents. He was never a knock. And I guess the movie says that. God, I feel stupid. I feel as stupid as Colin Farrell in this movie did.
Yes, but you don't look as constantly befuddled as he does. For those of you at home who did not sit down and watch The Recruit, NOC means non-official cover. It's an acronym, and so basically Al Pacino explains to them in one of his big scenery-chewing speeches as they're training that a bunch of people will be weeded out during training at the farm. Many of them will then be posted to various embassies around the world as quote-unquote diplomats, but a select few, or only just one from the class, will be selected as the non-official cover. It's just like the spy to end all spies who does the most important covert work and will, never be remembered if they die in the line of duty.
Yeah, kind of alluding to the fact, I mean, he's letting Colin think that his dad was also an NOC.
Yes, exactly.
And that's why it's unclear what happened to his dad.
Yeah, and it seems like he talks about how if you're a knock, and you get captured, the government won't come after you; they'll write you off, and you'll be tortured and all these other things. You have to make sure you never get caught, and I think that sounds like a pretty shitty job, and actually not something that I would be trying to compete for. But I guess I shouldn't knock it till I try it. So one of the tests that he puts everybody through in trying to winnow them down to be the knock is Al Pacino comes in one night when all of the dude spy cadets are playing poker, and he says, "Come on, we're going to go into town for a drink." He loads them all up onto what looks to be a party bus, which he drives into town and takes them to a local honky-tonk. I would just be utterly thrilled if Al Pacino showed up driving a party bus and told me to get on board. That might be the last bus ride I ever take, but I die excited.
There is a little bit of stupid trivia for this. It's not this scene, but there is another scene in which Al Pacino and Colin Farrell drive up to a coffee shop or something. They drive up to somewhere.
Yeah.
And the trivia is that Al Pacino was actually driving. The person that was supposed to reset the car wasn't available or didn't do it. I don't know. I don't want to make him sound like a Union Buster thing, but he did it himself and dinged the car up. And so when he pulls up in shot for the next time around, you can actually see the car has a ding in the side, and it was actually Al Pacino who put it there.
His car's got a great big turning radius. But he takes them to this bar, and he tells them, each of you has a mission. It's like these 5 guys, no burgers. Tells them that they need to go inside, and each of them needs to...
There is a burger later.
This is true. There is a burger. It doesn't appear to be from 5 Guys, though. But he tells each of them that they have half an hour to get a woman to leave the bar with them to hook up, and sends the guys all inside with this mission. Colin Farrell goes right to work and is actually doing pretty well at it, but bear in mind, you're Colin Farrell, it's 2003, you've got a lot working in your favor.
Yes.
But then he sees Bridget Moynahan elsewhere in the bar drinking and is concerned. She looks really sad. He goes over to her and she's like, "Oh, they cut me loose today. It's just so bad. I'm super, super drunk." She's coming on to him and saying let's go hook up and have some feel-good sex. And he's to be fair, he's being a lot more of a gentleman than any of the dudes in the movie Loser. He's let's call you a cab and get you home safely. But then basically she like leads him out of the bar and is saying, come with me. She pulls him out of the bar, and then, he follows her out, and then once she's got him out in the parking lot, she just says basically, I've completed my operation, and the headlights of the party bus goes on, and it turns out that Pacino had sent her to the bar ahead of time, and her mission was to prevent Colin Farrell from completing his mission.
Okay, on one hand, just a secondary fuck you for the beginning of this episode. That's what you pulled on me. Second of all,
yes, I used the powers of seduction to get you to repeat your intro.
Second of all, does Colin Farrell actually not succeed in his job here? I feel like he actually succeeds in his mission, because yes, he's distracted from getting the initial girl who he was trying to get out there. She gets him out there by saying she wants to have sex with him.
True.
That's one thing.
True.
And then it's followed up with, and something we have to go into is the lie detector stuff.
Yes.
The next day, he asks her, did you want to have sex with me last night?
Mm-hmm.
And turns out she did.
Yeah.
So technically, he succeeds in his mission.
You're right. I mean, it's... I kind of wish that was more of a plot point where, like, they're trying to ding him for failing, and he's like, check the rule book. What I want to know is, okay, the other 4 operatives all leave with women.
Yeah.
What happens then? Then it's like, do the women all go back to the farm and they hook up in, like, the bunkhouse? Or do the spies all go, sorry ladies, we're just spies, and the girls are all like, damn it, this happens every week at this bar. Ugh.
That's a good question. I mean, no one's supposed to know about the farm, so does the CIA have a, like, per diem of, like, this is how much you can spend on a hotel for the night?
Or probably the most likely thing is that the women leave the bar, and then it's like, each of them is like, wait, the guy that I was with, it's all these dudes are all together, and they're all leading us out towards a bus, and they're talking about a farm. Red flag, peace. We're going to go back inside.
Time. Should be, at least. I mean, I guess not when you look like Colin Farrell in 2003. Speaking of which, let's do a little deep dive on him real quick.
Yeah.
Where this falls in his career.
Dive deep into those pretty eyes and that sculpted chest.
Because he's still pretty new to American audiences in 2003. So.
He's pretty new to having an American accent in this movie, which you can hear at times.
Well, yeah, he's Irish, obviously. He got his start in UK productions. I don't know all of the details of his transition to American movies. Mm-hmm. But obviously, there's a lot of business machinations here, agents, managers, trade publications and stuff like that. But essentially, he got, like, cast in, or an audition for a Joel Schumacher film called Tigerland.
Yeah.
Which he put in a pretty decent performance in that. It's kind of an underseen film. I feel like people wrote off Joel Schumacher after the Batman debacles.
Yeah, he's in Batman jail. They locked him up in Arkham Asylum.
Yeah, but Tigerland, a pretty decent war film, and his role in that opened up a lot of doors to him in Hollywood, and suddenly, like, he became the new thing that Hollywood felt like they could push to become, a new leading man. So I can see why. He certainly has the riz. That he's risen. Riz is dripping out his face.
Yeah. Well, he's got Rizmata. He's got riz dripping from his hands and his feet. We're gonna get emails about that. Go on.
But I think at the time he was kind of like, I could see in interviews of him in the decades since this era, like, he had kind of a bad boy persona, and I think it was just because, like, he didn't give a shit about the Hollywood system.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he was rebelling a little bit against, I think, the limitations of the leading man roles he was kind of being offered. From, like, 2001 to 2003, he was in, like, big roles in modest budgeted films like American Outlaws, Phone Booth, this film, or small roles in big budgeted films like Heart's War, Minority Report.
Yeah.
And oddly, this all led him to being set up as a huge star against Ben Affleck in Daredevil, playing the villain Bullseye. And I think that was a breaking point for him. He was like, "This is a fucking cartoon show. I don't want anything to do with this." That movie tanked. I looked ridiculous.
Yes.
And yeah, he
and
sort of pivoted to becoming, a more interesting actor since then.
I mean, yes. Well, I think that I first started really paying attention to him when I saw In Bruges in theaters and had my socks completely knocked off. It was almost as revelatory as seeing Chicago in theaters. But no, that was when I really kind of realized, like, oh, this guy is funny. He has a whole lot of range, and I feel like he kind of just he started doing a lot more indie darling stuff since then, and now has gone hard for Yorgos Lanthimos.
He's gone hard for a lot of people. Like, I think one of the things he did after the Daredevil debacle was working with Terrence Malick in A New World. The Pocahontas story, and it's Christian Bale's in that movie. There's a number of like interesting performances that weren't something you would expect out of what were being touted as Hollywood leading men of the time, and just kind of continued playing like, oh yeah, that scratched an itch way more than Daredevil did, so let me continue to pursue those roles, and if I'm not a major star, I'm not a major star. Turns out, following his instinct and his talent, because he is certainly one of our great actors, turned him into a pretty good career. Yeah, no, I mean, he was in this indie film recently called The Batman, playing some kind of penguin, I think, and yeah, I think it's I don't know. Again, following his instincts to go for like kind of small art house pictures like that really has paid off in a major way. Yeah, I guess that show just ended, huh? According to the gigantic billboard outside my house, yes, it seems like it's still going strong, though. where he's playing late in the film Robert De Niro in Raging Bull. Oh, okay. So he's just Jake LaMotta with a lot of weight on him. Yeah. I have not seen it. I haven't had 3 hours to spend on Batman just yet. I've given a lot of time to Batman over the years, and I need to let that replenish. I don't blame you one iota. So basically, he's mad at Bridget Moynahan for having lied to him to get him out of the bar, and he's very upset. And this comes to a head the following day. They are testing out this lie detector technology that's like a visor you put on that detects your pupil dilations to tell if you're lying or not. This has been a thing through the film so far. Like, the lie detector was part of the pre-screening process before they get to the farm. Yeah, it's how they're kind of selected. Al Pacino at one point had kind of demonstrated it as an interrogation technique, and he strapped himself to it, and he challenges the recruits to like go rough on me. Yeah, and everyone's asking him questions like, have you ever worn ladies' underwear? Yeah. He's like, yes. Yeah, and true. That's true. Yeah. What I love about that scene where they've got him using it is like they ask him a bunch of wacky questions and goes through, and then it's like, okay, they're coming back to calibrating the thing with simple questions, and the person says to him, "Is your name Walter Burke?" And he says, "No," and it comes up true, and I'm like, movie. That's good writing. Trust nobody. Yes. Also, I just find it kind of funny, or not funny, just kind of interesting as like one of the traits of one of these, villains with hubris. Like, he's putting himself in a position where he could be found out right then and there. Yes. If someone asked the right question. Yes. And he knows he's overconfident in his own abilities that he's like, give it to me harder. Baby. I'm sorry. That was a line from the Al Pacino falling in love with Al Pacino movie. Yeah, we can't be giving this stuff away for free. We have to get people in. That's how we make $100 million in our first weekend. Oh, we're making this movie now. Oh yeah, okay. we're making this movie with like 80-year-old Al Pacino. Yes, falling in. Yeah, it's okay. Well, listen, it's basically Hope Springs, but Al Pacino plays both of the lead roles and Dr. Feld. Yeah, well, I'm wondering, is that him as Dr. Feld, or do we get Robert De Niro to play Dr. Feld? Then it's kind of a reunion from Heat, basically. I don't know. I kind of just want a Being John Malkovich situation where Al Pacino plays every character in the movie. And every line he says with no explanation. Just Pacino.
But so there's more of the lie detector stuff, and they're trying it out on the students. And in the aftermath of the operation at the bar, he's got it on Bridget Moynahan, and they've got Colin Farrell asking her questions. And there's this whole thing where he asks her a bunch of really personal questions leading up to, did you actually want to sleep with me the other night? And she gets really upset with him. And I'm like, yeah, Colin Farrell, you're being kind of a dick about this. I mean, really, like, I don't know why he is so mad at her for lying to him when this is part of a training operation where she's just like, well, she's following a mission given to her by Al Pacino, which is the same thing that he's here to do, and B, you've been told to trust nobody, and then you trusted somebody.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's that. But also, the person who told him not to trust anybody is the person you shouldn't be trusting, so does that mean you can actually trust people? That's like something to think about, folks.
Well, yeah, in the movie, and by the end of the movie, you get to that. But also, it's like, look, it's taken for granted that he is blindly trusting Al Pacino. The fact that he then... But then he doesn't have enough blind faith in Al Pacino's advice to then apply that lesson elsewhere.
But, okay, the more realistic thing here is that, like, there have been kind of romantic scenes set up before this where, you know, they've been vulnerable with each other. They've shared personal details about their life and experience with each other that he felt betrayed when she just used him as an operation. And so he's just pettily getting her back here. So, you know, and then that hurts her. On an emotional level, it's just them hurting each other and saying, okay, we're good. I mean, to me, it doesn't ring untrue.
More broadly, I like the way that just their kind of love story plays out in this atmosphere of mistrust and deception, and how it's never clear how much of what they're doing is seducing each other for an ulterior motive and how much of it is real. Like, I think that's cool. I like that they have put this little love story into this spy movie, and I think that it's a great environment for it. Again, this feels like, part of the original Roger Towne script, where it's like, okay, two spies at the farm falling in love, lying to each other.
Yeah.
I just think that, like, Colin Farrell's character at this point, it's like, okay, you're not good at spying. You don't seem to have any natural aptitude at any of this. Like, you suck at being a spy, and now you are mad at the woman who proved that you're bad at being a spy because she's good at being a spy. It's like, well, dude, just get your shit together. Like, on a story beat level, I like it. On a forming any connection to the main character level, I don't like it.
Okay, well, so then this goes into, I mean, they're given kind of a sham operation where it's called Rabbit and Choking the Rabbit.
It's called Choking the Rabbit. That's they're trying to find choke points. It's the rabbit and the eye or something.
I have it written down. I've lost myself in the notes here.
Yeah, you got to lose yourself.
Rabbit and the eye. So people are gonna. Basically, the exercise is someone is the rabbit, and it turns out the rabbit is going to be Colin Farrell and Bridget Moynahan, and the rest of the recruits are the eyes, and they have to rotate. You've seen this. We saw this in Operation Fortune Roost at the very beginning at the airport.
Yeah.
Everyone is going to be rotating eyes. So, like, once the rabbit is out of view of one eye, the next guy in position takes up the watching perspective and keeps everyone else informed of their movements, and you try to make sure that you don't lose sight of them. Meanwhile, the rabbit has to find a choke point to try to lose the tail. It's kind of a fun exercise, but it's a sham exercise because in the middle of it, when they find the choke point, suddenly they're attacked, and Colin Farrell has a black bag put over his head and put into a van and taken away.
Yeah, he's been paired up with Bridget Moynahan, and they're both out there, like, they're on the operation together. Both of them get abducted and shoved into a van, and then next thing he knows, he's in some kind of cell being interrogated by supposedly foreign agents operating on American soil who are beating him and demanding that he give up the names of his classmates and instructors.
Worth mentioning too that, like, the guy who is starting to interrogate him was identified as a tail, Walter Burke. Why am I using Al Pacino's character name now for the first time in this episode? Al Pacino it has taken Colin Farrell out to dinner to talk about his dad at one point, and during that scene, he says, "Oh, I think we got a tail," and they see this kind of Russian-looking bald dude, spying on them and sitting at the bar.
He could be Uzbek. He could be Ukrainian. All Slavic people look alike to you. Is that what you're saying?
No.
These
get the lie detector away from me.
These dangerous Eastern European-y dudes have taken them away, who he has reason to believe are foreign agents. And they keep interrogating him, asking him to give up names, and he's saying, like, "No, I think you're CIA. This isn't real. I trust nobody."
My point was that the guy that was tailing them in that restaurant scene is the guy that's interrogating him in this
exactly.
scene. So, yeah, there is, as us, the audience, seems to be some validity if you're following, this through line. If you're taking things for face value that this movie's giving you.
The thing the movie keeps telling you not to do.
Yeah. Listen, I get so wrapped up sometimes. I just can't help but...
There was not even any
things
Spanish
as they're told to me.
guitar playing. How are you getting seduced by what the movie's trying to tell you?
Yeah, I don't know. I really like this sequence where he's held in the container.
Yeah.
Because he's holding out for so long, and it actually goes to some pretty dark lengths. That, like, maybe that's why it stuck out to me. They
throw him under a really cold shower. They don't feed him for a few days, and then they come in with a cheeseburger and are waving it in his face. And I'm kind of like, okay, is this CIA training, or is this like a frat initiation at this point? I'm sorry. Like, ooh, do you want this Big Mac? You can't have it. It's like, all right.
I mean, he's broken a little bit before that. I mean, before the cheeseburger point, the guy comes in and throws a pair of pants at him and says,
"No, that's after the cheeseburger." That's after the cheeseburger.
Okay.
After the first thing happens after the cheeseburger, though, they do bring in like shockers to shock him with or something.
I was gonna say, do they fucking electrocute him in this movie?
They imply it, but they don't show it happening. They've got like a couple of contacts or something for a car battery, and they show them heating up and a shot of his face like reacting in fear, but they don't show it happen.
It's pretty intense. Then they bring in the pants, throw it at him, and say, just give up the juice because Layla already did. In fact, she pissed herself while being interrogated.
Yeah. And they kind of imply like that she was screaming your name and begging, and they throw him the pants. After they tell him that she peed in the pants as she was being interrogated and presumably killed, he smells the pants and then recoils to certify this.
Yeah.
So then he gets very upset and he starts screaming out, "Okay, you want a name? I'll give you a name, Burke, Burke, Burke." He yells out Al Pacino's character's name. And then hydraulic wall raises. Oh shit, they've been at the farm the entire time. The whole class is sitting there watching this. Layla is out there. She's crying. Now.
Yep. Yeah.
Landen.
Yeah.
The pants.
Yeah.
Clearly have been pissed in.
Yes.
Who peed on the pants?
I mean, they're coming from the CIA. I'm sure they... Listen, people have to take drug tests going into this thing. They have access to piss.
Well, obviously they have access to piss. I'm not disputing that the CIA has access to piss.
Are you suggesting they had someone actually piss in the pants rather than just going to a fridge and grabbing a little sample of piss?
Well, you've got I'm wondering, is there a deleted scene of Al Pacino's character unzipping and pissing on a pair of Levi's that they picked up at the Gap?
Again, that is from the Al Loves Al movie.
Why is Al Pacino pissing on a pair of jeans in a love story? What part of Dr. Feld's therapy is that? Okay, that's the tagline for that movie. You've got Al Pacino in drag and Al Pacino paired up like they're in love on the poster, and it's like, buy a ticket and find out. What's this gonna be like? You gotta pay money to see.
That to me seems like a pretty good marketing campaign. Yes,
So you're saying Al Pacino pissed on the pants?
No, I'm saying they get it under the fridge. Yeah, like.
Well, I think
what other scenario is there? Like,
why the other scenario?
Does he give someone a mission to go? Okay, this has to be believable. We've gone through. Other operatives can tap into your pheromone sense and can tell if it's we're just using coyote piss. It actually has to come from you.
I don't know. I guess I didn't have a specific answer I was looking for in mind. It's just the movie.
What kind of answer you?
The movie goes out of its way to underline that these pants have been pissed in, and then 1 second later it's like, well, they were lying to him. So then it leaves open the bigger question of the movie isn't was his dad in the CIA? It's who peed the pants.
Well, okay. I mean, a valid question.
So anyway, he is. Okay, but I also, more broadly than that, this is also goes back to Colin Farrell is so not CIA material. The fact that he has done a great job of withstanding all of this torture and not giving anything up, sure, but then they come in and they tell him, hey, we killed your girlfriend, here's a pair of pants. And then he's like, so upset that she's dead that he starts giving up names. It's like, well, wait, but so you just got mad, so you gave them what they wanted? Giving it's not like they said, we'll kill her if you don't give us the name. It's they said, she's already dead, and then he just gives up the name out of anguish. This guy so clearly lacks any of the mentality to be a spy.
To the script's benefit, I mean, it addresses that. Later, a few scenes later, Al Pacino, when he's trying to convince Colin Farrell that the whole operative part that we haven't even gotten into at the 2-hour mark has all been a setup from the get-go. I'll just kind of foreshadow what's coming. Pacino tells Colin Farrell he's the knock, right?
Yeah.
And his mission is to spy on Bridget Moynahan because she's a mole.
Yes.
And in doing so, she hands some important information to a contemporary.
Yeah.
I don't know what you call them.
A fellow agent. There's a handoff. He's following her, and he hands off some information.
So he starts chasing the handoff and ends up killing him, and it turns out, hey, it's Gabriel Mock.
It's one of the other classmates from the farm.
In the kind of wrap-up of that, Al Pacino is saying, this has all been a game. He's still alive. He's not, but he's trying to convince him that he is. And in that thing, he says the container exercise, the interrogation exercise was that it's designed to go as long as it takes to break you. There is no end to it until you're broken.
Yes, you last, and he says that you lasted longer than anyone else.
Yeah.
But you got to trust no one. Did he actually last longer than anyone else?
Well, good question.
I just what transpires from this scene of him giving up the names is it's like, oh, you've been cut loose from the program, but then Al Pacino comes back to him at the crappy motel where he's staying and getting drunk and drunk dialing the Dell rep trying to get his job back, and tells him, no, actually, you're the knock. We're gonna put you on this super secret mission. Okay, well, you know what? Yeah, I guess you're right. This does play back into one of those things where the movie stands up to repeat viewings. I guess everything, so he actually is cut loose from the farm when he gives up the name, and then Al Pacino coming to him, that's basically the start of Al Pacino manipulating him into actually being a double agent, even though...
I guess I got the timeline a little bit confused when I was explaining it there, but yeah, this is the moment. Yeah, you're right. I think... That's part of the movie that we, the audience, don't get to see. If we were just watching the movie of agents becoming agents, in their story, Colin Farrell disappears and then comes back later as a crazed guy, thinking, I need revenge for not making it in the CIA.
Because Al Pacino comes to him and says, you're actually the best. You're the knock. We're going to put you on this mission. We're going to give you a low-level job at the CIA. I can get that set up for you. You'll be some kind of analyst with a low clearance. And then your job is to follow Layla and get close to her because she's trying to steal this super secret technology.
Okay.
And so I guess...
Hold on. Let me try to follow this real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. Al Pacino is saying you're actually he's saying you're the best.
Yes.
You think you failed. You think you've been cut. But guess what? You're actually, you stood the longest, you performed the best, you are the knock, you're the good one.
Yes.
Hooray, you have done it.
Yes.
That's what Al Pacino's saying.
Yes.
But in reality, Colin Farrell is the worst.
Yes.
He fucked up everything.
Yes.
From the get-go, was cut, and now that played into Pacino's plan. So I can't trust anything this movie's telling me.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I suddenly realize it's kind of harder to criticize this movie because it's like, well, are these really questionable decisions being made, or is Al Pacino making all the best decisions?
I think we're both playing into Pacino's scheme here.
Oh my, it happens to the best of us. This is another thing that I really like about this movie. You know, he's going through spy school, he finishes spy school, he's given his assignment, he's the knock. And I'm just assuming, I assume going into this, like, okay, it's a spy movie. Now we're going to go overseas. Now it's going to be glamorous locations. Or now, tugging at my collar, it's going to be the Middle East and some really nasty stuff because it's 2003. No, It's no overseas assignment or anything. His job is basically just, like, you're going to stay in Northern Virginia and just follow Layla around and, like, try to seduce her to figure out how she is stealing this ICE-9 program off of the CIA's computers, because Al Pacino tells him she's a double agent. Al Pacino tells him, you know, all the computers at the CIA have no disk drives, so she can't be getting it on a disk. There's no printers there, so she can't be printing it out and copying the code. You got to figure out how she's doing it. I just really respect that the movie does not try to wow us with a flashy location or depicting, like, them in a foreign land with foreign enemies. On the Operation Fortune episode, I remember saying this, that, like, that movie is just so much in your face, like, oh, we're in the south of France, and we're in Turkey, and we're on a yacht, and we're driving sports cars, and, like, how I just wanted to see a movie about, like, kind of schlubby spies driving shitty cars around a nondescript American city.
You want Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy?
Basically, yes. I more or less get it with this movie, except Colin Farrell is anything but schlubby. But the rest of the movie is just kind of Colin Farrell driving a shitty pickup truck around, like, Maryland, outer DC suburbs.
There is a VW Bug that plays pretty highly in this.
There's a car chase with a VW Bug that she's driving. There's, like,
you might call it schlubby now, but in 2003, those were all the rage.
That was the Zooey Deschanel of cars. If you want a car that's adorkable, if you want to show that your female character is kind of an Ed Burns type, has a little bit more going on underneath the surface.
If I were ever going to determine which car had bangs, it would be a VW Bug.
Oh yes, the VW Bug has given itself trauma bangs after a breakup. But yeah, so I like that it just stays a very low-key spy story in bland surroundings, and that then the rest of the movie is kind of just him and Bridget Moynahan, like, him trying to seduce her and get closer, and them kind of forging this little relationship. They've been getting closer, and they're walking out through the parking garage, and she takes him to this one spot where the security cameras, it's a blind spot for them, and they won't be seen for 40 seconds, and she's counting down, and they start making out and everything, and it's like, I like that the movie, as we're getting closer to the third act, is basically like, yeah, let's just be kind of a sexy office romance spy movie, and not trying to do anything else, or not trying to dazzle us with anything more. Like, the movie is just about relationships and not really technology.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, it was almost necessary to give us a breath of fresh air. I mean, what do you do story-wise with just a bunch of recruits at the farm? Like, you graduate, do we just watch the graduation and send them off into the world? I mean, I'm glad it kept it small and contained, and it really leans on the strength of this movie, which is its cast.
Yeah,
I think, you know, we've talked about Colin Farrell. You know, obviously Pacino has his chops, whether he's, you know, Pacinoing it up or not. And Bridget Moynahan, you know, also, like, she's perfectly cast in this role.
Yeah. She frequently has to play these scenes where you don't really know what side she's on. You don't, like, her character is, like, maybe a couple layers deep in what she's trying to do versus what she's, you know, what her actual intentions are, and you can never really get a clear read.
I would argue she plays it straight. She knows exactly what her character is, and it's the movie or even Pacino putting layers of glasses on Colin Farrell that like makes us question her thing. So I don't think she ever is playing it deceptive. Like she's playing it like I'm a recruit. I made it through the recruitment and now I work for Langley.
I see. Okay, you're right. I came out of this trusting nobody, and in fact I should be trusting Bridget Moynahan's performance as just a lady who, like, a cute guy from her spy training is being, sweet to her and is trying to get a relationship started. And then she discovers, huge red flag, he's actually inadvertently being a double agent.
Which is, kind of makes this part of the film a little heartbreaking because we've seen them develop this romance a little bit over their time at the farm. And there's a scene after that lie detector scene that you had mentioned where he kind of calls her out and she's really hurt by that, and they're like they come to the conclusion like, yeah, there's something here, we can't deny that, and she's like, but not now, not here. And this feels like the culmination of that. It's like, well, now and here. But Colin Farrell is like, I can't trust you, you're a mole, my mission is to find you out, and information, Al Pacino has these moments in this film of telling these larger-than-life stories about, field assignments in the past that illustrate his point of, like, someone he used to date, and he could have protected her, decided not to because information was bigger than her, bigger than him.
A source who he was dating. Like, he had developed this woman, he had seduced this woman to get information from her, and then it turned out the Russians were coming for her, and he let them get her instead of...
But the point being that, like, information is more important than either of them. And Colin Farrell's taking that to heart here, where he is sacrificing his feelings for her. She is playing this like, oh, this relationship is finally starting, and that's the kind of heartbreaking part of this. Except that she starts to get wind that there might be something suspicious about him, and she starts... a little bit of surveillance on him with these biodegradable tracking devices. Tracking patches.
After one of the times he stays over at her place, she is aware that he has been snooping on her computer, and then she puts a tracker on him, and both of them is surreptitiously noticing the other person do this. There's then this whole thing where, like, she hands off a note to this other person who Colin Farrell chases in this big chase scene through the subway and winds up shooting the guy, and it turns out to be one of his other classmates from the farm. And, like, this is, like, there's a lot of tragedy to this bit of the movie. There's the fact that this relationship that is built on them actually liking each other, but him feeling it's necessary to lie to her because he's been lied to. Also tragic, he just... murders another CIA agent. Which was all orchestrated by Al Pacino to frame him. And, like, all of this winds up coming to a head with, like, he realizes that she is taking this top secret computer program called ICE-9, which is a Kurt Vonnegut reference to actually my favorite book, Cat's Cradle, by Kurt Vonnegut. I would feel bad if I didn't mention this at some point in the episode.
Who wrote Kurt Vonnegut's ICE-9?
Kurt Vonnegut's ICE-9, that was written by Lee Daniels, actually.
It's Lee Daniels, Kurt Vonnegut's ICE-9.
Yes, exactly. The chain of possession is very far, and that was by Sid Meier. But so it turns out that the way that she has been sneaking ICE-9 out of the CIA mainframes is she's been putting it on thumb drives, which she hides in her coffee cup to get through security. And I kind of don't know how, like, why was anyone, how did you not guess that that's what's happening? Like, he's like, there's no disk drives. How could they do it? And I'm like, well, there's USB drives.
I mean, she's literally pulling a Jurassic Park here.
She's not literally pulling a Jurassic Park. It's not like she's got a can of shaving cream that she's carrying into and out of the CIA every day.
I mean, it's a coffee mug.
Well, yeah, it's a coffee mug.
It's the same method. Like,
okay, yes.
It's in the bottom of a innocuous container that people don't think to check.
Okay. She's pulling a Nedry maneuver. She's doing a Wayne Knight on the CIA. But he is able to figure out she's doing this, and then Colin Farrell winds up chasing her in his truck, and she's driving her VW Bug. They go off on some back road. There's this scene where she's racing along being pursued by him, and she crashes through a pair of chain link gates. And I'm sorry, The VW Bug as a vehicle does not give me big crashing through gate energy. Like, that doesn't seem like a car that can handle that.
I don't know. I've been in one. They're pretty dense.
Yeah,
There's not a lot of like body to it. It's like mostly just frame. It's just it's really just a compact thing.
Is it like the arch shape of the car? Like it makes it's just like a very strong architectural form.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a roll cage. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay, fair. I guess there's then maybe that should have been a car that Q souped up for James Bond at some point. Maybe there should be more VWs in spy movies. But he runs her off the road. He crashes into a car with the gun. He's holding her up. Colin Farrell is like fully falling apart at this point, and he like gets the Ice 9 thumb drive from her, and he's basically then telling her like, I'm the Knock, I've been assigned to follow you, I know you're a double agent trying to steal Ice 9.
Accent going in and out,
and I'm just like, I'm like, Colin Farrell, you're such a bad spy. Why are you telling her all of this why are you blowing your cover to her?
Because he loves her, Truman.
Because he's then saying, like, just go, just run, I won't take you in, just try to get away. It's like, Colin Farrell, you've been told that this woman is a double agent on American soil trying to destroy the country. Why are you letting her go?
Love.
You were so mad. You were so bad about the CIA letting 9/11 happen, and then you get a little bit horny. You have sex like 2 times, and you're like, you know what? Double agent, schmubble agent, just run. Here's all of the information about who I am, and that I'm a covert CIA operative. Take that. Go back to your handlers and tell them.
Maybe this is a really smart move on the screenplay's part, where it's like he's starting to get a sense about Al Pacino that he might not be cracked up all that he says that he is, and he's like, you know what? I don't think I actually want to be like Al Pacino. He had a moment where he could have saved his love and didn't do it. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to save mine.
This is basically Colin Farrell's "I don't want your life" moment.
Yes.
Al Pacino isn't even there to hear it. So he's telling her all this, and poor Bridget Moynahan, who was just who up until this moment had been like, yeah, I'm going out with this guy from work. He seems to be snooping on my computer, so I'm gonna let my colleague know that might be an issue. And then all of a sudden it's like, he's chasing me, he's pointing a gun at me, he's ranting and raving about all of this shit that I've never heard of. And she's like, no, I'm actually in the CIA. I'm not a double agent. I've been assigned to try and I'm testing their security procedures by trying to steal the thing. Yeah.
And maybe it is. Maybe this is an exercise, because to just get a dummy program out of the Langley to test their security loopholes.
She is saying that it's like, yes, this is like dummy code. It's not anything. They're just seeing like I'm just probing our own security. But then Colin Farrell's like, no, I know about computers and programming. I've done it 2 whole times in this movie, and I saw the code for Ice 9, and I know it's the real thing. And anyway, there's this whole thing. He suddenly got all these doubts about what's real and what's not, and then he goes and he confronts Al Pacino in Al Pacino's car to give him the Ice 9.
Before that, he calls him on the phone, on his cell phone.
Oh yeah, of course.
To get him to meet him, and is like, after he's like gone through all this and ducked out of the eye of the public, he's like riding up an escalator on a phone with Al Pacino saying, keep me on the job, on the mission, I just killed a man. Like,
yeah.
First of all, you're in public, and second of all, you're on the cell phone, which this film has explicitly told us not to have around.
Yes, they've told, like, there was people told him at the farm, that is so easy to track, you should turn off your cell phone or not have it with you. Such a bad spy. So he has the rendezvous with Al Pacino in the car, in which I think might be the best scene in the movie, though, where he's pointing the gun at him and saying, like...
This section is, like, scene after scene of Colin Farrell pointing a gun at someone and that person saying, just shoot me.
Yeah. Just,
like, if you believe this, then just shoot me right now.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Bridget Moynahan is saying that when he's pointing the gun at her. And
Al Pacino says that in this scene. Like, I gave you the gun. Those are blanks. Just shoot me if you don't believe me.
Yeah, you didn't actually kill that other agent. Those were squibs on him that went off when you shot the gun at him. It's all a game. It's all a test. And he's just, saying, yeah, shoot me. Just shoot me to prove it. And then when Colin Farrell's distracted for 1 second, Al Pacino tries to take the gun away, and it fires and it blows out the back window, and it's like, oh shit, it's all real. What? But I think just that scene of that, him ambushing him with the gun in the car, and Al Pacino's like spilled coffee on his lap, and he's just complaining about, my dick's on fire. Let me change my pants.
Best line of the movie.
It might truly be the best. But just this thing of Al Pacino playing it totally cool, gaslighting Colin Farrell straight to his face and telling him all this. Like, I feel like there is more tension in this scene, and I myself, the audience, am like even though I had pretty fully bought from minute one that Al Pacino's the bad guy in this movie, in this scene, even I'm kind of like, or is he? Or is this like the game and it never stops twisting and turning?
Who can you trust? That's a better Who Can You Trust movie.
Yes, the David Fincher movie is better than this movie. I think that's not a particularly bold statement to make. But no, I don't know. I just think that in this scene where it again, this just encapsulates so much of what I think I actually really like about this movie, is it just comes down to two people bullshitting each other and and each one trying to read what's true and what's not about the other person. It's not technology. Yeah. It's not the satellite uplink looking down into someone's purse. It's not Aubrey Plaza, doing a power slide in a sports car. It's just people lying to each other's faces and trying not to get shot.
Like a PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, a power slide. She's a computer expert, so she's driving the sports car, but then she's also got, the TPS reports up in the back seat. For what's his face, the actor in that movie,
Danny something or other.
Not Danny Strong. He's the writer of Lee Daniels, The Butler. Yeah, but anyway, so then once it's revealed that the gun is real, then it's clear that, oh shit, Al Pacino has been double agenting this whole time. Colin Farrell chases him.
Somehow they get to a warehouse, and it's just a cat and mouse thing, and Colin Farrell's solution is, okay, he's revealing his whole plan out loud, let me just boot up Spartacus and get him to broadcast this to everyone, and it doesn't work, which I thought was a good turn in the movie.
Yes.
Because it would have been very easy to just kind of Deus Ex Machina. Oh, yeah, we introduced this at the beginning of the film. We're going to bring it back at the end of the film, and it works, and we are out of this thing.
Yes.
It gives a little clever twist of it not working.
It is a clever twist of it not working. It relies a lot on Al Pacino becoming as dumb as Colin Farrell at the end of the movie. This long time, gotta keep your secrets and never get caught guy, then at the end of the movie is just running around explaining, ranting about all the reasons why he's actually trying to sell Ice 9 to the highest bidder because fuck the government and they never appreciate the work that I do. But it requires the movie to create the logic of Colin Farrell has a laptop with him while he's being chased, which he then sets up and tries to activate Spartacus because he also has the Spartacus disc with him along with his disc of Twisted Metal 2. And then, but then Spartacus isn't loading up. But then he leaves the laptop out where Al Pacino, after explaining his whole plan, can see it. And the screen says, like, live broadcast to CIA headquarters activated, and gives Al Pacino the impression that everything he said has been broadcasted. But it's like, well, then wait,
and he does this by jumping up at one point and saying, just shoot me.
Yes.
Al Pacino has the gun pointed at him, and Colin Farrell's like, well, if you believe me, just shoot me.
Just shoot me. It's this.
It's a scene that comes up a lot at the end of this film.
It's a sitcom that my parents watched in the late 90s. It would be funny for a twist if Colin Farrell jumped up and said, mad about you. But like what I want to know though is, so Al Pacino sees the readout on the screen saying that, oh shit, you're being broadcast right now. And he gets so angry that he shoots the computer a bunch of times. Reminiscent of Lightning Jack shooting the newspaper that has misquoted him. But it's like, how did Colin Farrell, in like 1 minute while he's hiding, did he like Photoshop together a screen that says broadcast in progress? Because he can't get Spartacus to work. So then
he's a super, he can hack the world. He's a super programmer that just like, okay, let me just put in the code to display a success message.
But it's like, I feel like it's not a hack the planet situation. That's a graphic design the planet situation. It's a very different skill set.
No, you run the code that shows a success screen.
It really does feel like one of the other writers who was handed this movie had the note, like, it needs technology in it. And so he, in the course of 2 days, he wrote the Spartacus stuff in at the beginning, and then he wrote Spartacus in at the end.
Yes.
And then he didn't even write Spartacus working. He just wrote Spartacus not working. Because then, you know, Al Pacino chases Colin Farrell out of the warehouse, and then all of the CIA backup has arrived, and they've all got laser sights and spotlights on them. And thinking that the jig is up, Al Pacino goes on this big rant with the spotlight on him, this real big send-off that's all about how I could have stopped 9/11 or whatever. He doesn't actually say that, but he's implying that, like, basically he did all this hard work, but because the bureaucrats in D.C. didn't want to give the go orders to do what needed to be done, the bad things happened and the CIA got blamed, and so there's, you know, he's just out for himself now.
Yeah.
And then in him saying all this, then all of the CIA guys are like, the what? And we see all the laser sights go from Colin Farrell over to Al Pacino's chest.
A moment I kind of like. And I like, I mean, it's tacky a little bit, but Al Pacino sells it here. I mean, he's full ham at this point.
Oh, he is very ham.
And, like, the second that the laser sights move onto him, his moment of, like, oh, I've just been Al Pacino'd.
Yes.
Like, he has this, like, internal breakdown where he's like, oh, whoopsies.
When he realizes that, and then he looks at Colin Farrell, and Colin Farrell's like, you gotta trust nobody. And I'm like, motherfucker, you've trusted everybody up until this exact minute. You don't get to throw it back in Pacino's face. You've learned nothing.
Oh, man.
In and of itself, it's like, it's cool that, like, the thing that does him in is his big mouth. There's just been no pipe laid for this to make sense.
Yeah,
like,
agreed.
It requires Al Pacino's character. Like, if Al Pacino had been established to be a windbag who cannot resist monologuing throughout the movie. I mean, he does a lot of monologues in the movie, but it's always about why you should never give up the game and always guard your secrets closely. So the fact that he then, with no provocation whatsoever, like Colin Farrell's entire plan at the end is to make Al Pacino so mad that he blurts out all of his plans, which runs contrary to everything about his character.
Which I would just reply, you started by saying it requires Al Pacino to ... I think the movie just requires Al Pacino in this moment. Like, this would not have worked in whatever little way that it does without the acting ham of Al Pacino.
This is true. This is very true. Like, so much of this movie, and so much of how I can talk about this movie with a smile on my face and be laughing about it, is just that it's Al Pacino in all of these things. A man who is a man who both has gravitas as an actor, but also is so inherently ridiculous that kind of you'll go with anything.
Yeah. Agreed. And yeah, so it wraps up with a happy day for everyone except Al Pacino. And I guess Gabriel Mack, who got killed.
Because Al Pacino realizes, oh, I just blew my game. He starts to lift his gun at them, and they all shoot him, and he dies dramatically.
At least he goes out like Disco Daddy, doing what he loves, manipulating people.
Doing what he loves, making a big speech under a spotlight. But then Bridget Moynahan is there in tears, and they, the other CIA agents take Colin Farrell and put him in the back of the car and are driving him away to be debriefed. And there's this whole thing with this agent who's driving him away, basically saying, this was crazy, but next time you'll do even better, or something like that. And Colin Farrell's like, what do you mean next time? And he says, come on, this is in your blood. And then we get a dramatic fade to there's a star on the wall at the CIA with the year that Colin Farrell's dad died that Colin Farrell looks at earlier that leads to him.
Colin Farrell's going to Daddy Town.
Yeah, okay.
Unlike about 20 years after this, he's going to Zaddy Town.
Colin Farrell Goes to Daddy Town should be the sequel to the movie where Al Pacino plays a husband and wife who are rekindling their marriage. He plays their baby. But like, so in this last scene where he's like, he's taking...
No, I want to see Al Pacino as the baby.
I don't. I'm sorry. That's one step too far. There's some things like, I have become Death Destroyer of Worlds. Don't do it. He's being driven away. He's told, you're a natural at this kind of work. It's in your blood. And it's both implied that his dad was in the CIA and also the CIA officer telling him that, implying that, like, the CIA officer telling him this implies that, yes, you were the knock all along, and that you were actually, like, we knew you were doing this, but Al Pacino was a double agent, was going to steal the stuff when you took it.
I don't know if I got that from that.
Well,
I think I got your knock material, not that you were the knock all along.
But also, you're not knock material.
Well,
you got
yes.
completely bamboozled. You killed another CIA agent. You almost handed over this top secret cyber weapon to a double agent.
Correct.
Like, the fact that we didn't shoot you at the same time as we shot Al Pacino is the greatest act of mercy the CIA has ever performed. And then that they're driving away, like, good job, you'll be a CIA agent. Like, I would genuinely like and love this movie if it ended with the CIA being like, "What the fuck, man? What
just
we thought
hard left reaction at the end."
Yeah, he gets shot, and then it's just him, Colin Farrell, standing there, and the CIA agent going, "What the fuck?" Like, because like the way I see it, as far as they're concerned, you're just some data analyst who very credulously believed all this crazy shit, endangered national security, killed someone. Like, if the movie ended with him actually, like, getting arrested and having to answer for being bad, like, if the movie ended with them saying, like, why are you so dumb, and him just coming out of this a broken man who can no longer trust, that would be at least thematically consistent. Like, I would like it if the outcome of this movie is like, yes, you're bad at being a spy, you made the country less safe.
That's all part of the sequel. The Recruit 2 Hyper Recruit.
The Recruit 2 trying to get a job at Dell after all.
Dude, you got a job at Dell.
Dude, you accidentally killed an American operative.
That's the movie.
Yeah.
We covered it.
We did. Did we cover it well? Do you think? Did we do a better?
We covered it thoroughly.
Are we better at being?
I didn't think we would, but we did.
Are we better at being podcasters than Colin Farrell was at being a spy?
Well, maybe. I don't know. Maybe we got to go to a podcasting farm.
I don't want to go to the farm where they grow podcasts. I don't want to go to the farm where they milk cows to get white guys doing Al Pacino impressions back and forth coming out of it.
Ew, gross.
That's gross.
You'd rather see that than Al Pacino as a baby.
Yes, I would, Landon. Frankly, I would. I don't think it's that strange. I think baby Al Pacino is much creepier.
All right, well, for fuck's sake, let's just end this nightmare. Why do you think this film was forgotten? I have a couple thoughts that I haven't brought up in this episode yet that I'm excited to do.
Okay, so you're telling me that why? Basically, like, I should not give any good points in my analysis of why the movie was forgotten, so I can save them to be fresh for you.
I think there's room for us both to have good points.
Okay. Thank you. This town is big enough for the both of us. 2002, The Bourne Identity. 1998, Enemy of the State. 2001, Spy Game. The early 2000s, late 90s was a fertile ground for techno thrillers, spy movies, cloak and dagger movies. Some of them were really good, some of them not good, a lot of them, period, and a lot of them that have more technology in them, a lot of them that have more action in them, a lot of them that have more glamorous locations in them. This movie is very lo-fi in a lot of ways that I like, but ultimately it just got completely blown out of the water by other movies of this ilk that did bigger, more memorable stuff. Like, Enemy of the State may be not as good a movie as this, may be a better movie than this. People can differ. There's more memorable shit in that movie than there is in this one.
That's fair.
I haven't seen Enemy of the State in quite a while, but I remember a whole bunch of stuff from that, and I don't remember a lot of stuff from this movie, which I've just spent 2 hours talking about.
Yeah, I would kind of point to something that you've alluded to a couple times in this episode of, like, there's nothing political here or any kind of, like, scathing indictments of really any institution that, like, if this was made in the 1970s, if this starred a young Robert Redford and Faye Dunaway, it would have that kind of palpable paranoia.
Yes.
I guess that's just 3 Days of the Condor, but
it
would have that palpable paranoia, and it would have it rooted in, like, we're actually criticizing some of these institutions that we trust at face value the way that Al Pacino is telling us not to trust.
Yes.
And it would be more memorable because of that. This film just is kind of a by-the-numbers efficient thriller. It has some rising talent, and it has some, like, pivoting talent in it.
Yeah, and maybe falling talent.
There's also something just kind of interesting that I recognized while trying to evaluate its forgottenness, which is we're covering a lot of films, I think, from 2001, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
There's a real just wellspring of material to cover from this era. And I think it's because stuff from the 90s has already gone through that 20-year period of reevaluation.
Yeah.
And this era is ripe with reevaluation at the moment.
So,
like,
what stuff from the 90s has gone through reevaluation? Just like movies from the 90s?
Yeah, pop culture. Just like, what do we want to remember from pop culture? What is actually canon? There's, like, stuff that's popular when it comes out. There's the stuff that's cult, that develops over time. And then there's, like, hey, wait a minute. Maybe we actually had it all wrong about Birth of a Nation, and we shouldn't celebrate that movie.
Yeah,
sure. Like, there's just kind of a new lens put on it when you start to look back at these things. Mm-hmm. And you usually don't do that until about 20 years has passed. Like, you're too close to it otherwise.
Yeah.
And so this, not just this film, but this film is of those, movies that are just now kind of like, hey, wait, did we sleep on this or did we not sleep on this?
Yeah.
So I think that's, it's more this era has been forgotten than this movie has been forgotten. Spoiler alert, this movie has also been forgotten.
Yeah.
But there's another thing as why I don't think it will end up really galvanizing people to remember it, which is this movie made in 2018 is what I've referred to before as a red box movie. I don't know that red boxes are still around, actually. I haven't been to the grocery store in a long time.
I think the red box went out of business recently, but red box movie, that term is going to be around, I think, longer and cast a greater shadow than the Red Box Corporation did.
Okay. Well, yeah, as a concept, like, this is a kind of mid to low budget, not a lot of assets thrown at it sort of movie.
This is the movie that
if made now.
Made in 2018, this movie would have, like, an actor in the lead role who was like a supporting character on Game of Thrones or something like that.
Yeah. Yes, that, or on the other side of that spectrum, it would star Steven Seagal.
Yeah, yes, or Steven Seagal is in the Al Pacino role or something.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Or Nicolas Cage is in the Al Pacino role if this is during his decade of paying for all of his castle debts.
There you go. We all have castle debts we got to pay off. So I think, like, when you're this type of film just is kind of foreign to us nowadays, and I watched it and had a good time with it, but I don't know what to do with it exactly.
Yeah, it's a movie that is, like, not explicitly bad or anything like that, but it's also just so little of it actually makes an impression, which I guess I say about a lot of movies, but this one feels in a very specific way like it just feels like It has elements of a million other movies but just like done in a
Before
weaker
and
shade.
since.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is just part of a grand tapestry of techno thrillers to show on basic cable at 2:30 in the afternoon.
If this movie had come out in like the early 90s, like this might have been a cult classic because it would have played on HBO over and over and over again.
Yeah, and if it had come out in the late 90s, this would have been on basic cable as much as Enemy of the State was when I was in middle school.
Sure.
Like
Or TBS, right?
Yes, the whole reason that I keep feeling like Enemy of the State is a 2001-2002 like post 9/11 movie is because they started airing that on TV so much once everybody got into counterintelligence thrillers after 9/11.
Yeah. So I guess that brings us to our verdict. Should we send this back to modern memory from 2003 to 2024, or I'm sorry, it's 2025.
Wow. Look, we're
up here in the time machine. You lose track of time.
Yeah, I know. It's
ironically.
amazing that you were only off by a year. Like, some days I don't know if we're witnessing the birth of Christ or, watching watching Raging Bull in theaters.
So do we send it back to modern memory or leave it forgotten? Man, I'm curious where you fall on this one.
It sucks because I like so much of this movie, and there's so much in this movie that I enjoy and think is fun. I think this movie is best left forgotten, though. I just think there's not really enough zip and zing to what's here to really warrant using up brain space on it. Really watching this just makes me think, man, Bourne Identity is a really good movie. I should go watch Bourne Identity. Man, Spy Game. I remember enjoying Spy Game when I watched it with my parents 20 years ago. I should watch Spy Game again.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that verdict, and I think I've come to the same conclusion. Like, it doesn't need space-time dust kicked over it so no one else finds it again.
No.
But
few movies are in that distinction.
I don't know. There's nothing here that isn't already, in the film canon that needs to be added. If other people discover it, like, good, they'll have a good time with it. But yeah, I don't think it's contributing anything we need to remember.
I hope more people take the lesson of this movie that you don't really need your movie to be about technology. It can just be about relationships, and I hope people take that to heart. But I don't hope that enough that I want society to waste brain space on remembering this movie.
Oh, but if you need to, get rid of brain space for a little bit, you could do worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, honestly, if you want to get rid of brain space, if you want to kill brain spells, you could also... If you want to kill brain cells, not brain spells, I think I've killed too many brain cells. If you want to kill brain cells, you could do better and find a stupider movie than this one, too.
Well, I guess that's true, but...
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess that brings us to the end of this episode, and we will see everyone next week for a debrief of The Recruit in our mini transmission. For Truman Caps, I've been Landen Solano.
And for Landen Solano, I've been Truman Caps. Everybody make sure to stay away from white vans and dudes in ski masks. It won't end well.
My dick's on fire. Hoo-ah!
Movie Memory Machine is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. Join our Patreon at patreon.com/gruntworkpodcast to keep the machine running. Theme song by Porky's Groove Machine. Rate us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. For more information on today's show, visit MovieMemoryMachine.com.